About Emily and Anne Brontë, by Charlotte Brontë. Biographical notice of Ellis and Acton Bell, by Currer Bell. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellie Christoff. September the 19th, 1850. It has been thought that all the works published under the names of Currer, Ellis, and Acton Bell were, in reality, the production of one person. This mistake I endeavoured to rectify by a few words of disclaimer prefixed to the third edition of Jane Eyre. These too, it appears, failed to gain general credence, and now, on the occasion of a reprint of Wuthering Heights and Agnes Grey, I am advised distinctly to state how the case really stands. Indeed, I feel myself that it is time the obscurity attending those two names, Ellis and Acton, was done away. The little mystery which formerly yielded some harmless pleasure has lost its interest. Circumstances are changed. It becomes, then, my duty to explain briefly the origin and authorship of the books written by Currer, Ellis, and Acton Bell. About 5 years ago, my two sisters and myself, after a somewhat prolonged period of separation, found ourselves reunited and at home. Resident in a remote district where education had made little progress, and where consequently there was no inducement to seek social intercourse beyond our own domestic circle, we were wholly dependent on ourselves and each other, on books and study, for the enjoyments and occupations of life. The highest stimulus, as well as the liveliest pleasure we had known from childhood upwards, lay in attempts at literary composition. Formerly we used to show each other what we wrote, but of late years this habit of communication and consultation had been discontinued. Hence it ensued that we were mutually ignorant of the progress we might respectively have made. One day, in the autumn of 1845, I accidentally lighted on a manuscript volume of verse in my sister Emily's handwriting. Of course, I was not surprised, knowing that she could and did write verse. I looked it over, and something more than surprise seized me, a deep conviction that these were not common effusions, nor at all like the poetry women generally write. I thought them condensed and terse, vigorous and genuine. To my ear they had also a peculiar music, wild, melancholy, and elevating. My sister Emily was not a person of demonstrative character, no one on the recesses of whose mind and feelings even those nearest and dearest to her could, with impunity, intrude unlicensed. It took hours to reconcile her to the discovery I had made, and days to persuade her that such poems merited publication. I knew, however, that a mind like hers could not be without some latent spark of honourable ambition, and refused to be discouraged in my attempts to fan that spark to flame. Meantime, my younger sister quietly produced some of her own compositions, intimating that, since Emily's had given me pleasure, I might like to look at hers. I could not but be a partial judge, yet I thought that these verses, too, had a sweet, sincere pathos of their own. We had very early cherished the dream of one day becoming authors. This dream, never relinquished even when distance divided and absorbing tasks occupied us, now suddenly acquired strength and consistency. It took the character of a resolve. We agreed to arrange a small selection of our poems, and, if possible, to get them printed. Averse to personal publicity, we veiled our own names under those of Currer, Ellis, and Acton Bell, the ambiguous choice being dictated by a sort of conscientious scruple at assuming Christian names positively masculine, while we did not like to declare ourselves women, because, without at that time suspecting that our mode of writing and thinking was not what is called feminine, we had a vague impression that authoresses are liable to be looked on with prejudice. We had noticed how critics sometimes use for their chastisement the weapon of personality, and for their reward a flattery which is not true praise. The bringing out of our little book was hard work. As was to be expected, neither we nor our poems were at all wanted. But for this we had been prepared at the outset. Though inexperienced ourselves, we had read the experience of others. The great puzzle lay in the difficulty of getting answers of any kind from the publishers to whom we applied. Being greatly harassed by this obstacle, I ventured to apply to the Messrs. Chambers, of Edinburgh, for a word of advice. They may have forgotten the circumstance, but I have not, for from them I received a brief and businesslike, but civil and sensible reply, on which we acted, and at last made away. The book was printed. It is scarcely known, and all of it that merits to be known are the poems of Ellis Bell. The fixed conviction I held, and hold, of the worth of these poems has not indeed received the confirmation of much favourable criticism, but I must retain it notwithstanding. Ill success failed to crush us. The mere effort to succeed had given a wonderful zest to existence. It must be pursued. We each set to work on a prose tale. Ellis Bell produced Wuthering Heights, Acton Bell Agnes Grey, and Currer Bell also wrote a narrative in 1 volume. These manuscripts were perseveringly obtruded upon various publishers for the space of a year and a half. Usually, their fate was an ignominious and abrupt dismissal. At last Wuthering Heights and Agnes Grey were accepted on terms somewhat impoverishing to the two authors. Currer Bell's book found acceptance nowhere, nor any acknowledgment of merit, so that something like the chill of despair began to invade her heart. As a forlorn hope, she tried one publishing house more, Messrs. Smith, Elder & Co. Ere long, in a much shorter space than that on which experience had taught her to calculate, there came a letter, which she opened in the dreary expectation of finding 2 hard, hopeless lines, intimating that Messrs. Smith, Elder & Co. were not disposed to publish the manuscript, and, instead, she took out of the envelope a letter of 2 pages. She read it trembling. It declined, indeed, to publish that tale, for business reasons, but it discussed its merits and demerits so courteously, so considerately, in a spirit so rational, with a discrimination so enlightened, that this very refusal cheered the author better than a vulgarly expressed acceptance would have done. It was added that her work in 3 volumes would meet with careful attention. I was then just completing Jane Eyre, at which I had been working while the 1-volume tale was plodding its weary round in London. In 3 weeks I sent it off. Friendly and skilful hands took it in. This was in the commencement of September, 1847. It came out before the close of October following, while Wuthering Heights and Agnes Grey, my sister's works, which had already been in the press for months, still lingered under a different management. They appeared at last. Critics failed to do them justice. The immature but very real powers revealed in Wuthering Heights were scarcely recognized. Its import and nature were misunderstood. The identity of its author was misrepresented. It was said that this was an earlier and ruder attempt of the same pen which had produced Jane Eyre. Unjust and grievous error. We laughed at it at first, but I deeply lament it now. Hence, I fear, arose a prejudice against the book. That writer, who could attempt to palm off an inferior and immature production under cover of one successful effort, must indeed be unduly eager after the secondary and sordid result of authorship, and pitiably indifferent to its true and honourable meed. If reviewers and the public truly believed this, no wonder that they looked darkly on the cheat. Yet I must not be understood to make these things subject for reproach or complaint. I dare not do so. Respect for my sister's memory forbids me. By her any such querulous manifestation would have been regarded as an unworthy and offensive weakness. It is my duty, as well as my pleasure, to acknowledge one exception to the general rule of criticism. One writer, endowed with the keen vision and fine sympathies of genius, has discerned the real nature of Wuthering Heights, and has, with equal accuracy, noted its beauties and touched on its faults. Too often do reviewers remind us of the mob of astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers gathered before the writing on the wall, and unable to read the characters or make known the interpretation. We have a right to rejoice when a true seer comes at last, some man in whom is an excellent spirit, to whom have been given light, wisdom, and understanding, Who can accurately read the mene tekel upharsin of an original mind, however unripe, however inefficiently cultured and partially expanded that mind may be, and who can say with confidence, "This is the interpretation thereof"? Yet even the writer to whom I allude shares the mistake about the authorship. It does me the injustice to suppose that there was equivoque in my former rejection of this honour, as an honour I regard it. May I assure him that I would scorn in this and in every other case to deal in equivoque. I believe language to have been given us to make our meaning clear, and not to wrap it in dishonest doubt. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, by Acton Bell, had likewise an unfavourable reception. At this I cannot wonder. The choice of subject was an entire mistake. Nothing less congruous with the writer's nature could be conceived. The motives which dictated this choice were pure, but I think slightly morbid. She had in the course of her life been called on to contemplate, near at hand, and for a long time, the terrible effects of talents misused and faculties abused. Hers was naturally a sensitive, reserved, and dejected nature. What she saw sank very deeply into her mind. It did her harm. She brooded over it till she believed it to be a duty to reproduce every detail, of course with fictitious characters, incidents, and situations, as a warning to others. She hated her work, but would pursue it. When reasoned with on the subject, she regarded such reasonings as a temptation to self-indulgence. She must be honest. She must not varnish, soften, nor conceal. This well-meant resolution brought on her misconstruction and some abuse, which she bore, as it was her custom to bear whatever was unpleasant, with mild, steady patience. She was a very sincere and practical Christian, but the tinge of religious melancholy communicated a sad shade to her brief, blameless life. Neither Ellis nor Acton allowed herself for one moment to sink under want of encouragement. Energy nerved the one, and endurance upheld the other. They were both prepared to try again. I would fain think that hope and the sense of power were yet strong within them. But a great change approached. Affliction came in that shape which to anticipate is dread, to look back on, grief. In the very heat and burden of the day, the labourers failed over their work. My sister Emily first declined. The details of her illness are deep branded in my memory, but to dwell on them, either in thought or narrative, is not in my power. Never in all her life had she lingered over any task that lay before her, and she did not linger now. She sank rapidly. She made haste to leave us. Yet, while physically she perished, mentally she grew stronger than we had yet known her. Day by day, when I saw with what a front she met suffering, I looked on her with an anguish of wonder and love. I have seen nothing like it, but indeed I have never seen her parallel in anything. Stronger than a man, simpler than a child, her nature stood alone. The awful point was, that while full of ruth for others, on herself she had no pity. The spirit was inexorable to the flesh. From the trembling hand, the unnerved limbs, the faded eyes, the same service was exacted as they had rendered in health. To stand by and witness this, and not dare to remonstrate, was a pain no words can render. 2 cruel months of hope and fear passed painfully by, and the day came at last when the terrors and pains of death were to be undergone by this treasure, which had grown dearer and dearer to our hearts as it wasted before our eyes. Towards the decline of that day, we had nothing of Emily but her mortal remains, as consumption left them. She died on December the 19th, 1848. We thought this enough, but we were utterly and presumptuously wrong. She was not buried ere Anne fell ill. She had not been committed to the grave a fortnight before we received distinct intimation that it was necessary to prepare our minds to see the younger sister go after the elder. Accordingly, she followed in the same path with slower step, and with a patience that equalled the other's fortitude. I have said that she was religious, and it was by leaning on those Christian doctrines in which she firmly believed that she found support through her most painful journey. I witnessed their efficacy in her latest hour and greatest trial, and must bear my testimony to the calm triumph with which they brought her through. She died May the 28th, 1849. What more shall I say about them? I cannot and need not say much more. In externals, they were two unobtrusive women. A perfectly secluded life gave them retiring manners and habits. In Emily's nature the extremes of vigour and simplicity seemed to meet. Under an unsophisticated culture, in artificial tastes, and an unpretending outside, lay a secret power and fire that might have informed the brain and kindled the veins of a hero. But she had no worldly wisdom. Her powers were unadapted to the practical business of life. She would fall to defend her most manifest rights, to consult her most legitimate advantage. An interpreter ought always to have stood between her and the world. Her will was not very flexible, and it generally opposed her interest. Her temper was magnanimous, but warm and sudden, her spirit altogether unbending. Anne's character was milder and more subdued. She wanted the power, the fire, the originality of her sister, but was well endowed with quiet virtues of her own. Long-suffering, self-denying, reflective and intelligent, a constitutional reserve and taciturnity placed and kept her in the shade, and covered her mind, and especially her feelings, with a sort of nun-like veil, which was rarely lifted. Neither Emily nor Anne was learned. They had no thought of filling their pitchers at the wellspring of other minds. They always wrote from the impulse of nature, the dictates of intuition, and from such stores of observation as their limited experience had enabled them to amass. I may sum up all by saying that for strangers they were nothing, for superficial observers less than nothing, but for those who had known them all their lives in the intimacy of close relationship, they were genuinely good and truly great. This notice has been written because I felt it a sacred duty to wipe the dust off their gravestones and leave their dear names free from soil. End of introduction. This recording is in the public domain. Pilate's Wife's Dream. Read for LibriVox.org by Christoff. I've quenched my lamp. I struck it in that start which every limb convulsed. I heard it fall. The crash blent with my sleep. I saw depart its light, even as I woke on yonder wall. Over against my bed there shone a gleam, strange, faint, and mingling also with my dream. It sunk, and I am wrapped in utter gloom. How far is night advanced, and when will day retinge the dusk and livid air with bloom, and fill this void with warm, creative ray? Would I could sleep again till clear and red morning shall on the mountain tops be spread. I'd call my women, but to break their sleep, because my own is broken, were unjust. They've wrought all day, and well-earned slumbers steep their labours in forgetfulness, I trust. Let me my feverish watch with patience bear, thankful that none with me its sufferings share. Yet, oh, for light! One ray would tranquillize my nerves, my pulses more than effort can. I'll draw my curtain and consult the skies. These trembling stars at dead of night look wan, wild, restless, strange, yet cannot be more drear than this my couch shared by a nameless fear. All black, one great cloud drawn from east to west conceals the heavens, but there are lights below. Torches burn in Jerusalem and cast on yonder stony mount a lurid glow. I see men stationed there, and gleaming spears. A sound too from afar invades my ears. Dull, measured strokes of axe and hammer ring from street to street, not loud, but through the night, distinctly heard. and some strange spectral thing is now upreared, and, fixed against the light of the pale lamps, defined upon that sky, it stands up like a column, straight and high. I see it all. I know the dusky sign, a cross on Calvary which Jews uprear, while Romans watch, and when the dawn shall shine, Pilate to judge the victim will appear, pass sentence, yield him up to crucify, and on that cross the spotless Christ must die. Dreams then are true, for thus my vision ran. Surely some oracle has been with me. The gods have chosen me to reveal their plan, to warn an unjust judge of destiny. I, slumbering, heard and saw. Awake, I know Christ's coming death and Pilate's life of woe. I do not weep for Pilate. Who could prove regret for him whose cold and crushing sway no prayer can soften, no appeal can move? Who tramples hearts as others trample clay, yet with a faltering and uncertain tread that might stir up reprisal in the dead? Forced to sit by his side and see his deeds, forced to behold that visage, hour by hour, in whose gaunt lines the abhorrent gazer reads a triple lust of gold and blood and power. A soul whom motives, fierce yet abject urge, Rome's servile slave and Judas' tyrant scourge. How can I love or mourn or pity him? I, who so long my fettered hands have wrung. I, who for grief have wept my eyesight dim, because, while life for me was bright and young, he robbed my youth, he quenched my life's fair ray, he crushed my mind, and did my freedom slay. And at this hour, although I be his wife, he has no more of tenderness from me than any other wretch of guilty life, less for I know his household privacy. I see him as he is, without a screen, and by the gods my soul abhors his mien. Has he not sought my presence, died in blood, innocent righteous blood shed shamelessly? And have I not his red salute withstood? Aye, when, as erst, he plunged all Galilee in dark bereavement, in affliction sore, mingling their very offerings with their gore. Then came he, in his eyes a serpent smile, upon his lips some false, endearing word, and through the streets of Salem clanged the while his slaughtering, hacking, sacrilegious sword, and I, to see a man cause men such woe, trembled with ire, I did not fear to show. And now the envious Jewish priests have brought Jesus, whom they in mockery call their king, to have by this grim power their vengeance wrought, by this mean reptile innocence to sting. Oh, could I but the purposed doom avert, and shield the blameless head from cruel hurt! Accessible is Pilate's heart to fear, omens will shake his soul like autumn leaf. Could he this night's appalling vision hear, this just man's bonds were loosed, his life were safe, unless that bitter priesthood should prevail, and make even terror to their malice quail. Yet, if I tell the dream, but let me pause. What dream? Erewhile the characters were clear, graved on my brain. At once some unknown cause has dimmed and raised the thoughts, which now appear like a vague remnant of some by-past scene, not what will be, but what long since has been. I suffered many things. I heard foretold a dreadful doom for Pilate, lingering woes, in far barbarian climes where mountains cold build up a solitude of trackless snows. There he and grisly wolves prowled side by side, there he lived famished, there methought he died. But not of hunger, nor by malady. I saw the snow around him stained with gore. I said I had no tears for such as he, and lo, my cheek is wet, mine eyes run o'er. I weep for mortal suffering, mortal guilt. I weep the impious deed, the blood self-split. More I recall not, yet the vision spread into a world remote, an age to come, and still the illumined name of Jesus shed a light, a clearness through the unfolding gloom. And still I saw that sign which now I see, that cross on yonder brow of Calvary. What is this Hebrew Christ? To me unknown, his lineage, doctrine, mission, yet how clear is God-like goodness in his actions shown! How straight and stainless is his life's career! The ray of deity that rests on him in my eyes makes Olympian glory dim. The world advances, Greek or Roman rite, suffices not the inquiring mind to stay. The searching soul demands a purer light, to guide it on its upward, onward way. Ashamed of sculptured gods, religion turns to where the unseen Jehovah's altar burns. Our faith is rotten, all our rites defiled, our temples sullied, and methinks this man, with his new ordinance so wise and mild, is come, even as he says, the chaff to fan, and sever from the wheat. But will his faith survive the terrors of tomorrow's death? I feel a firmer trust, a higher hope, rise in my soul, it dawns with dawning day. Lo, on the temple's roof, on Moriah's slope, appears at length that clear and crimson ray, which I so wished for when shut in by night. O opening skies, I hail, I bless your light. Part clouds and shadows, glorious sun appear, part mental gloom, come insight from on high. Dusk dawn in heaven still strives with daylight clear, the longing soul doth still uncertain sigh. Oh, to behold the truth, that sun divine, how doth my bosom pant, my spirit pine! This day time travails with a mighty birth, this day truth stoops from heaven and visits earth. Ere night descends, I shall more surely know what guide to follow, in what path to go. I wait in hope, I wait in solemn fear, the oracle of God, the sole true God to hear. Currer. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Faith and Despondency. Read for LibriVox by Ellis Christoff. The winter wind is loud and wild. Come close to me, my darling child. Forsake thy books and mateless play, and while the night is gathering grey, we'll talk its pensive hours away. Ere nay, round our sheltered hall November's gusts unheeded call. Not one faint breath can enter here, enough to wave my daughter's hair, and I am glad to watch the blaze glance from her eyes with mimic rays, to feel her cheek so softly pressed in happy quiet on my breast. But yet even this tranquillity brings bitter, restless thoughts in me, and in the red fire's cheerful glow I think of deep glens blocked with snow. I dream of moor and misty hill, where evening closes dark and chill. For lone among the mountains cold lie those that I have loved of old, and my heart aches in hopeless pain, exhausted with repinings vain, that I shall greet them ne'er again. Father, in early infancy, when you were far beyond the sea, such thoughts were tyrants over me. I often sat for hours together, through the long nights of angry weather, raised on my pillow to descry the dim moon struggling in the sky, or with strained ear to catch the shock of rock with wave and wave with rock. So would I fearful vigil keep, and, all for listening, never sleep. But this world's life has much to dread, not so, my father, with the dead. oh, not for them should we despair. The grave is drear, but they're not there. Their dust is mingled with the sod, their happy souls are gone to God. You told me this, and yet you sigh, and murmur that your friends must die. Oh, my dear father, tell me why? For if your former words were true, how useless would such sorrow be? As wise to mourn the seed which grew unnoticed on its parent tree, because it fell in fertile earth, and sprang up to a glorious birth, struck deep its root, and lifted high its green boughs in the breezy sky. But I'll not fear, I will not weep, for those whose bodies rest in sleep. I know there is a blessed shore, opening its ports for me and mine, and gazing time's wide waters o'er, I weary for that land divine, where we were born, where you and I shall meet our dearest when we die, from suffering and corruption free, restored into the deity. Well hast thou spoken, sweet trustful child, and wiser than thy sire, and worldly tempests raging wild shall strengthen thy desire, thy fervent hope through storm and foam, through wind and ocean's roar, to reach at last the eternal home, the steadfast, changeless shore. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. A Reminiscence, read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Yes, thou art gone, and never more thy sunny smile shall gladden me, but I may pass the old church door, and pace the floor that covers thee, may stand upon the cold damp stone, and think that frozen lies below the lightest heart that I have known, the kindest I shall ever know. Yet, though I cannot see thee more, 'tis still a comfort to have seen, and though thy transient life is o'er, 'tis sweet to think that thou hast been, to think a soul so near divine, within a form so angel fair, united to a heart like thine, has gladdened once our humble sphere. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Mementos, read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Arranging long locked drawers and shelves of cabinets shut up for years, what a strange task we've set ourselves! How still the lonely room appears! How strange this mass of ancient treasures, mementos of past pains and pleasures! These volumes, clasped with costly stone, with print all faded, gilding gone, these fans of leaves from Indian trees, these crimson shelves from Indian seas, these tiny portraits, set in rings, once doubtless deemed such precious things, keepsakes bestowed by love on faith, and worn till the receiver's death, now stored with cameos, china, shells, in this old closet's dusty cells. I scarcely think for 10 long years a hand has touched these relics old, and coating each, slow-formed appears the growth of green and antique mould. All in this house is mossing over, all is unused and dim and damp, nor light nor warmth the rooms discover, bereft for years of fire and lamp. The sun sometimes in summer enters the casements with reviving ray, but the long rains of many winters moulder the very walls away. And outside all is ivy, clinging to chimney lattice gable grey, scarcely one little red rose springing through the green moss can force its way. Unscared, the door and starling nestle where the tall turret rises high, and winds alone come near to rustle the thick leaves where their cradles lie. I sometimes think, when late at even I climb the stair reluctantly, some shape that should be well in heaven or ill elsewhere will pass by me. I fear to see the very faces familiar 30 years ago, even in the old accustomed places, which look so cold and gloomy now. I've come to close the window hither at twilight, when the sun was down, and fear my very soul would wither, lest something should be dimly shown, too much the buried form resembling of her who once was mistress here, lest doubtful shade or moonbeam trembling might take her aspect once so dear. Hers was this chamber. In her time it seemed to me a pleasant room, for then no cloud of grief or crime had cursed it with a settled gloom. I had not seen death's image laid in shroud and sheet on yonder bed. Before she married, she was blessed, blessed in her youth, blessed in her worth. Her mind was calm, its sunny rest shone in her eyes more clear than mirth. And when attired in rich array, light, lustrous hair about her brow, she yonder sat, a kind of day lit up what seems so gloomy now. These grim oak walls even then were grim, that old carved chair was then antique, but what around looked dusk and dim served as a foil to her fresh cheek. Her neck and arms of hue so fair, eyes of unclouded smiling light, her soft and curled and floating hair, gems and attire as rainbow bright. Reclined in yonder deep recess, oft times she would at evening lie, watching the sun. She seemed to bless with happy glance the glorious sky. She loved such scenes, and as she gazed, her face evinced her spirit's mood. Beauty or grandeur ever raised in her a deep-felt gratitude. But of all lovely things she loved a cloudless moon on summer night. Full oft have I impatience proved to see how long her still delight would find a theme in reverie, out on the lawn, or where the trees let in the lustre fitfully as their boughs parted momently to the soft languid summer breeze. Alas, that she should e'er have flung those pure though lonely joys away. Deceived by false and guileful tongue, she gave her hand, then suffered wrong. Oppressed, ill-used, she faded young, and died of grief by slow decay. Open that casket, look how bright those jewels flash upon the sight. The brilliants have not lost a ray of lustre since her wedding day. But see, upon that pearly chain, how dim lies time's discolouring stain. I've seen that by her daughter worn, for ere she died a child was born, a child that ne'er its mother knew, that lone and almost friendless grew, for, ever, when its step drew nigh, averted was the father's eye, and then a life impure and wild made him a stranger to his child. Absorbed in vice, he little cared on what she did, or how she fared. The love withheld she never sought, she grew uncherished, learned untaught. To her the inward life of thought full soon was open laid. I know not if her friendlessness did sometimes on her spirit press, but plain she never made. The bookshelves were her darling treasure, she rarely seemed the time to measure, while she could read alone, and she too loved the twilight wood, and often in her mother's mood away to yonder hill would hie, like her to watch the setting sun, or see the stars born one by one out of the darkening sky. Nor would she leave that hill till night trembled from pole to pole with light. Even then upon her homeward way, long, long her wandering steps delayed, to quit the sombre forest shade, through which her airy pathway lay. You ask if she had beauty's grace? I know not, but a nobler face my eyes have seldom seen, a keen and fine intelligence, and, better still, the truest sense, were in her speaking mien. But bloom or lustre was there none, only at moments, fitful shone an ardour in her eye, that kindled on her cheek a flush, warm as a red sky's passing blush, and quick with energy. Her speech, too, was not common speech. No wish to shine or aim to teach was in her words displayed. She still began with quiet sense, but oft the force of eloquence came to her lips in aid. Language and voice unconscious changed, and thoughts in other words arranged, a fervid soul transfused into the hearts of those who heard, and transient strength and ardour stirred in minds to strength unused. Yet in gay crowd or festal glare, grave and retiring was her air. 'Twas seldom, save with me alone, that fire of feeling freely shone. She loved not awes, nor wonders gaze, nor even exaggerated praise, nor even notice, if too keen the curious gaze urged her mien. Nature's own green expanse revealed, the world, the pleasures she could prize. On free hillside, in sunny field, in quiet spots by woods concealed, grew wild and fresh her chosen joys. Yet nature's feelings deeply lay in that endowed and youthful frame. Shrined in her heart and hid from day, they burned unseen with silent flame. In youth's first search for mental light, she lived but to reflect and learn. But soon her mind's maturer might for stronger task did pant and yearn, and stronger task did fate assign, task that a giant's strength might strain, to suffer long and ne'er repine, be calm in frenzy, smile at pain. Pale with the secret war of feeling, sustained with courage, mute, yet high, the wounds at which she bled revealing only by altered cheek and eye. She bore in silence, but when passion surged in her soul with ceaseless foam, the storm at last brought desolation and drove her exiled from her home. And silent still, she straight assembled the wrecks of strength her soul retained. For though the wasted body trembled, the unconquered mind to quail disdained. She crossed the sea, now lone she wanders, by Zines or Rhines or Arno's flow. Fain would I know if distance renders relief or comfort to her woe. Fain would I know if henceforth ever these eyes shall read in hers again that light of love which faded never, though dimmed so long with secret pain. She will return, but cold and altered, like all whose hopes too soon depart, like all on whom have beat, unsheltered, the bitter blasts that blight the heart. No more shall I behold her lying, calm on a pillow, smoothed by me. No more that spirit, worn with sighing, will know the rest of infancy. If still the paths of lore she follow, 'twill be with tide and goaded will. She'll only toil, the aching hollow, the joyless blank of life to fill. And oh, full oft quite spent and weary, her hand will pause, her head decline, that labour seems so hard and dreary, on which no ray of hope may shine. Thus the pale blight of time and sorrow will shade with grey her soft dark hair. Then comes the day that knows no morrow, and death succeeds to long despair. So speaks experience, sage and hoary. I see it plainly, know it well, like one who having read a story, each incident therein can tell. Touch not that ring, 'twas his, the sire of that forsaken child, and naught his relics can inspire save memories sin defiled. I, who sat by his wife's deathbed, I, who his daughter loved, could almost curse the guilty dead, for woes the guiltless proved. And heaven did curse. They found him laid, when crime for wrath was rife, cold, with the suicidal blade clutched in his desperate gripe. 'Twas near that long deserted hut, which in the wood decays. Death's axe, self-wielded, struck his root, and lopped his desperate days. You know the spot, where 3 black trees lift up their branches fell, and moaning, ceaseless as the seas, still seem in every passing breeze the deed of blood to tell. They named him mad, and laid his bones where holier ashes lie, yet doubt not that his spirit groans in hell's eternity. But lo, night closing o'er the earth infects our thoughts with gloom. Come, let us strive to rally mirth, where glows a clear and tranquil hearth in some more cheerful room. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Stars. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Ah, why, because the dazzling sun restored our earth to joy, have you departed, every one, and left a desert sky? All through the night your glorious eyes were gazing down in mine, and with a full heart's thankful sighs I blessed that watch divine. I was at peace, and drank your beams as they were life to me, and revelled in my changeful dreams like petrel on the sea. Thought followed thought, star followed star, through boundless regions on, while one sweet influence near and far thrilled through and proved as one. Why did the morning dawn to break so great, so pure a spell, and scorch with fire the tranquil cheek where your cool radiance fell? Blood red he rose, and arrow straight his fierce beam struck my brow. The soul of nature sprang elate, but mine sank sad and low. My lids closed down, yet through their veil I saw him blazing still, and steep in gold the misty dale, and flash upon the hill. I turned me to the pillow then, to call back night and see your worlds of solemn light again throb with my heart and me. It would not do, the pillow glowed, and glowed both roof and floor, and birds sang loudly in the wood, and fresh winds shook the door. The curtains waved, the wakened flies were murmuring round my room, imprisoned there till I should rise and give them leave to roam. O stars and dreams and gentle night, O night and stars, return, and hide me from the hostile light that does not warm but burn, that drains the blood of suffering men, drinks tears instead of dew. Let me sleep through his blinding rain, and only wake with you. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Philosopher. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Enough of thought, philosopher. Too long hast thou been dreaming, unlightened in this chamber drear, while summer's sun is beaming. Space-sweeping soul, what sad refrain concludes thy musings once again? Oh, for the time when I shall sleep without identity, and never care how rain may steep, or snow may cover me. No promised heaven these wild desires could all or half fulfil, no threatened hell with quenchless fires subdue this quenchless will. So said I, and still say the same, still to my death will say, 3 gods within this little frame are warring night and day. Heaven could not hold them all, and yet they all are held in me, and must be mine till I forget my present entity. Oh, for the time when in my breast their struggles will be o'er! Oh, for the day when I shall rest, and never suffer more! I saw a spirit standing, man, where thou dost stand an hour ago, and round his feet 3 rivers ran, of equal depth and equal flow. A golden stream, and one like blood, and one like sapphire seemed to be, but where they joined their triple flood, it tumbled in an inky sea. The spirit sent his dazzling gaze down through that ocean's gloomy night, then, kindling all with sudden blaze, the glad deep sparkled wide and bright, white as the sun, far, far more fair than its divided sources were. And even for that spirit, seer, I've watched and sought my lifetime long, sought him in heaven, hell, earth, and air, an endless search, and always wrong. Had I but seen his glorious eye once light the clouds that wilder me, I ne'er had raised this coward cry to cease to think and cease to be. I ne'er had called oblivion blessed, nor stretching eager hands to death, implored to change for senseless rest this sentient soul, this living breath. Oh, let me die, that power and will their cruel strife may close, and conquered good and conquering ill be lost in one repose. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Arbour. Read for LibriVox.org by Alice Christoff. I'll rest me in this sheltered bower, and look upon the clear blue sky that smiles upon me through the trees, which stand so thickly clustering by, and view their green and glossy leaves, all glistening in the sunshine fair, and list the rustling of their boughs, so softly whispering through the air. And while my ear drinks in the sound, my winged soul shall fly away, reviewing long departed years, as one mild, beaming autumn day, and soaring on to future scenes, like hills and woods and valleys green, all basking in the summer's sun, but distant still, and dimly seen. Oh, list! 'Tis summer's very breath that gently shakes the rustling trees. But look! The snow is on the ground. How can I think of scenes like these? 'Tis but the frost that clears the air, and gives the sky that lovely blue. They're smiling in a winter's sun, those evergreens of sombre hue, and winter's chill is on my heart. How can I dream of future bliss? How can my spirit soar away, confined by such a chain as this? Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Home. Read for LibriVox.org by Alice Christoff. How brightly glistening in the sun the woodland ivy plays, while yonder beeches from their barks reflect his silver rays. That sun surveys a lovely scene from softly smiling skies, and wildly through unnumbered trees the wind of winter sighs. Now loud, it thunders o'er my head, and now in distance dies. But give me back my barren hills, where colder breezes rise, where scarce the scattered standard trees can yield an answering swell, but where a wilderness of heath returns the sound as well. For yonder garden, fair and wide, with groves of evergreen, long winding walks and borders trim, and velvet lawns between. Restore to me that little spot, with grey walls compassed round, where nodded grass neglected lies, and weeds usurp the ground. Though all around this mansion high invites the foot to roam, and though its halls are fair within, oh, give me back my home. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. The Wife's Will. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Sit still, a word, a breath may break, as light airs stir a sleeping lake, the glassy calm that soothes my woes, the sweet, the deep, the full repose. Oh, leave me not, forever be thus more than life itself to me. Yes, close beside thee, let me kneel, give me thy hand that I may feel the friend so true, so tried, so dear. My heart's own chosen, indeed is near, and check me not, this hour divine belongs to me, is fully mine. 'Tis thy own hearth thou sitt'st beside, after long absence, wandering wide. 'Tis thy own wife reads in thine eyes a promise clear of stormless skies, for faith and true love light the rays which shine responsive to her gaze. Ay, well that single tear may fall, 10,000 might mine eyes recall, which from their lids ran blinding fast, in hours of grief, yet scarcely past. Well mayst thou speak of love to me, for oh, most truly, I love thee. Yet smile, for we are happy now, whence, then, that sadness on thy brow? What say'st thou? We must once again, ere long, be severed by the main. I knew not this, I deemed no more, thy step would err from Britain's shore. Duty commands, 'tis true, 'tis just, thy slightest word I wholly trust, nor by request, nor faintest sigh, would I to turn thy purpose try. But, William, hear my solemn vow, hear and confirm, with thee I go. Distance and suffering, didst thou say? Danger by night and toil by day. Oh, idle words, and vain are these. Hear me, I cross with thee the seas, such risk as thou must meet and dare, I, thy true wife, will duly share. Passive at home I will not pine, thy toils, thy perils shall be mine. Grant this, and be hereafter paid by a warm heart's devoted aid. 'Tis granted. With that yielding kiss entered my soul unmingled bliss. Thanks, William, thanks. Thy love has joy, pure, undefiled with base alloy. 'Tis not a passion false and blind, inspires, enchains, absorbs my mind. Worthy I feel art thou to be loved with my perfect energy. This evening now shall sweetly flow, lit by our clear fire's happy glow, and parting's peace embittering fear is warned our hearts to come not near. For fate admits my soul's decree, in bliss or bale, to go with thee. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Remembrance. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Cold in the earth, and the deep snow piled above thee, far, far removed, cold in the dreary grave, have I forgot my only love to love thee, severed at last by time's all-severing wave? Now, when alone, do my thoughts no longer hover over the mountains on that northern shore, resting their wings where heath and fern leaves cover thy noble heart for ever, evermore? Cold in the earth, and 15 wild Decembers from those brown hills have melted into spring. Faithful indeed is the spirit that remembers, after such years of change and suffering. Sweet love of youth, forgive if I forget thee, while the world's tide is bearing me along, other desires and other hopes beset me, hopes which obscure, but cannot do thee wrong. No later light has lightened up my heaven, no second morn has ever shone for me. All my life's bliss from thy dear life was given, all my life's bliss is in the grave with thee. But when the days of golden dreams had perished, and even despair was powerless to destroy, then did I learn how existence could be cherished, strengthened, and fed without the aid of joy. Then did I check the tears of useless passion, weaned my young soul from yearning after thine, sternly denied its burning wish to hasten down to that tomb already more than mine. And, even yet, I dare not let it languish, dare not indulge in memory's rapturous pain, once drinking deep of that divinest anguish. How could I seek the empty world again? Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Vanitas Vanitatum, Omnia Vanitas. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. In all we do, and hear and see, is restless toil and vanity. While yet the rolling earth abides, men come and go like ocean tides. And ere one generation dies, another in its place shall rise, that, sinking soon into the grave, others succeed, like wave on wave. And as they rise, they pass away. The sun arises every day, and hastening onward to the west, he nightly sinks, but not to rest. Returning to the eastern skies, again to light us he must rise, and still the restless wind comes forth, now blowing keenly from the north, now from the south, the east, the west, forever changing, ne'er at rest. The fountains, gushing from the hills, supply the ever-running rills. The thirsty rivers drink their store, and bear it rolling to the shore, but still the ocean craves for more. 'Tis endless labour everywhere. Sound cannot satisfy the ear, light cannot fill the craving eye, nor riches half our wants supply. Pleasure but doubles future pain, and joy brings sorrow in her train. Laughter is mad, and reckless mirth. What does she in this weary earth? Should wealth or fame our life employ, death comes, our labour to destroy, to snatch the untasted cup away, for which we toiled so many a day. What then remains for wretched man? To use life's comforts while he can, enjoy the blessings heaven bestows, assist his friends, forgive his foes, trust God, and keep his statutes still, upright and firm, through good and ill. Thankful for all that God has given, fixing his firmest hopes on heaven, knowing that earthly joys decay, but hoping through the darkest day. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. The Wood. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. But 2 miles more, and then we rest. Well, there is still an hour of day, and long the brightness of the west will light us on our devious way. Sit then awhile here in this wood, so total is the solitude, we safely may delay. These massive roots afford a seat, which seems for weary travellers made. There rest. The air is soft and sweet in this sequestered forest glade, and there are scents of flowers around. The evening dew draws from the ground, how soothingly they spread. Yes, I was tired, but not at heart. No, that beats full of sweet content, for now I have my natural part of action with adventure blent. cast forth on the wide world with thee, and all my once waste energy to weighty purpose bent. Yet, say'st thou, spies around us roam, our aims are termed conspiracy. Haply, no more our English home an anchorage for us may be? That there is risk our mutual blood may redden in some lonely wood the knife of treachery. Say'st thou, that where we lodge each night, in each lone farm or lonelier hall of Norman peer, ere morning light suspicion must as duly fall as day returns, such vigilance presides and watches over France, such rigour governs all? I fear not, William. Dost thou fear? So that the knife does not divide, it may be ever hovering near, I could not tremble at thy side. And strenuous love, like mine for thee, is buckler strong 'gainst treachery and turns its stab aside. I am resolved that thou shalt learn to trust my strength as I trust thine. I am resolved our souls shall burn with equal, steady, mingling shine. Part of the field is conquered now, our lives in the same channel flow, along the self-same line. And while no groaning storm is heard, thou seem'st content it should be so, but soon as comes a warning word of danger, straight thine anxious brow bends over me a mournful shade, as doubting if my powers are made to ford the floods of woe. No, then it is my spirit swells and drinks with eager joy the air of freedom, where at last it dwells, chartered a common task to share with thee, and then it stirs alert, and pants to learn what menaced hurt demands for thee its care. Remember, I have crossed the deep, and stood with thee on deck to gaze on waves that rose in threatening heap, while stagnant lay a heavy haze, dimly confusing sea with sky, and baffling even the pilot's eye, intent to thread the maze of rocks on Bretagn's dangerous coast, and find a way to steer our band to the one point obscure, which lost, flung us as victims on the strand. All elsewhere gleamed the Gallic sword, and not a wherry could be moored along the guarded land. I feared not then, I fear not now. The interest of each stirring scene wakes a new sense, a welcome glow in every nerve and bounding vein. Alike on turbid channel sea, or in still wood of Normandy, I feel as born again. The rain descended that wild morn, when anchoring in the cove at last, our band, all weary and forlorn, ashore like wave-worn sailors cast, sought for a sheltering roof in vain, and scarce could scanty food obtain to break their morning fast. Thou didst thy crust with me divide, thou didst thy cloak around me fold, and sitting silent by thy side, I ate the bread in peace and told. Given kindly from thy hand, 'twas sweet, as costly fare or princely treat, on royal plate of gold. Sharp blew the sleet upon my face, and rising wild the gusty wind drove on those thundering waves apace our crew so late had left behind. But spite of frozen shower and storm, so close to thee my heart beat warm, and tranquil slept my mind. So now, nor footsore nor oppressed, with walking all this August day, I taste a heaven in this brief rest, this gipsy halt beside the way. England's wild flowers are fair to view, like balm in England's summer dew, like gold her sunset ray. But the white violets, growing here, are sweeter than I yet have seen, and ne'er did dew so pure and clear distil on forest mosses green, as now, called forth by summer heat, perfumes our cool and fresh retreat, these fragrant limes between. That sunset, look beneath the boughs, over the copse, beyond the hills. How soft, yet deep and warm it glows, and heaven with rich suffusion fills, with hues where still the opal's tint, its gleam of prisoned fire is blent, where flame through azure thrills. Depart we now, for fast will fade that solemn splendour of decline, and deep must be the aftershade, as stars alone to-night will shine. No moon is destined, pale, to gaze on such a day's vast phoenix blaze, a day in fires decayed. There, hand in hand, we tread again the mazes of this varying wood, and soon, amid a cultured plain, girt in with fertile solitude, we shall our resting place descry, marked by one roof tree towering high above a farmstead rude. Refreshed, ere long, with rustic fare, we'll seek a couch of dreamless ease. Courage will guard thy heart from fear, and love give mine divinest peace. Tomorrow brings more dangerous toil, and through its conflict and turmoil we'll pass, as God shall please. Currer. The preceding composition refers, doubtless, to the scenes acted in France during the last year of the Consulate. This recording is in the public domain. A Death Scene. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. O day, ye cannot die when thou so fair art shining. O sun, in such a glorious sky, so tranquilly declining. Ye cannot leave thee now, while fresh west winds are blowing, and all around his youthful brow thy cheerful light is glowing. Edward, awake, awake! The golden evening gleams, warm and bright on Arden's lake, arouse thee from thy dreams. Beside thee on my knee, my dearest friend, I pray that thou to cross the eternal sea wouldst yet 1 hour delay. I hear its billows roar, I see them foaming high, but no glimpse of a further shore hast blessed my straining eye. Believe not what they urge of Eden isles beyond, turn back from that tempestuous surge to thy own native land. It is not death but pain that struggles in thy breast. Nay, rally, Edward, rouse again. I cannot let thee rest. One long look that sore reproved me for the woe I could not bear. One mute look of suffering moved me to repent my useless prayer. And, with sudden check, the heaving of distraction passed away. Not a sign of further grieving stirred my soul that awful day. Paled at length the sweet sun setting, sung to peace the twilight breeze. Summer dews fell softly, wetting glen and glade and silent trees. Then his eyes began to weary, weighed beneath a mortal sleep, and their orbs grew strangely dreary, clouded, even as they would weep. But they wept not, but they changed not, never moved, and never closed. Troubled still, and still they ranged not, wandered not, nor yet reposed. So I knew that he was dying, stooped and raised his languid head, felt no breath, and heard no sighing. So I knew that he was dead. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Song. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. The linnet in the rocky dells, the moor lark in the air, the bee among the heathier bells that hide my lady fair. The wild deer browse above her breast, the wild birds raise their brood, and they, her smiles of love caressed, have left her solitude. I ween that when the grave's dark wall did first her form retain, they thought their hearts could ne'er recall the light of joy again. They thought the tide of grief would flow unchecked through future years. But where is all their anguish now, and where are all their tears? Well, let them fight for honour's breath, or pleasure's shade pursue. The dweller in the land of death is changed and careless too. And if their eyes should watch and weep, till sorrow's source were dry, she would not, in her tranquil sleep, return a single sigh. Blow, west wind, by lonely mound, and murmur, summer streams. There is no need of other sound to soothe my lady's dreams. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Penitent. Read for LibriVox.org by Christoff. I mourn with thee, and yet rejoice that thou shouldst sorrow so. With angels' choirs I join my voice to bless the sinner's woe. Though friends and kindred turn away, and laugh thy grief to scorn, I hear the great Redeemer say, Blessed are ye that mourn. Hold on thy cause, nor deem it strange that earthly cords are riven. Man may lament the wondrous change, but there is joy in heaven. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Music on Christmas Morning. Read for LibriVox.org by Christoff. Music I love, but never strain could kindle rapture so divine, so grief assuage, so conquer pain, and rouse this pensive heart of mine, as that we hear on Christmas morn, upon the wintry breezes borne. Though darkness still her empire keep, and hours must pass ere morning break, from troubled dreams or slumbers deep, that music kindly bids us wake. It calls us with an angel's voice to wake and worship and rejoice, to greet with joy the glorious morn which angels welcomed long ago, when our redeeming Lord was born, to bring the light of heaven below, the powers of darkness to dispel, and rescue earth from death and hell. While listening to that sacred strain, my raptured spirit soars on high. I seem to hear those songs again resounding through the open sky, that kindled such divine delight in those who watched their flocks by night. With them I celebrate his birth. Glory to God in highest heaven, goodwill to men and peace on earth. To us a Saviour King is given. Our God is come to claim his own, and Satan's power is overthrown. A sinless God, for sinful men, descends to suffer and to bleed. Hell must renounce its empire then. The price is paid, the world is freed, and Satan's self must now confess that Christ has earned a right to bless. Now holy peace may smile from heaven, and heavenly truth from earth shall spring. The captive's galling bonds are riven, for our Redeemer is our King, and he that gave his blood for men will lead us home to God again. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Frances. Read for LibriVox.org by Christoff. She will not sleep for fear of dreams, but rising quits her restless bed, and walks where some beclouded beams of moonlight through the hall are shed. Obedient to the goad of grief, her steps now fast, now lingering slow, in varying motion seek relief from the humanities of woe. Wringing her hands at intervals but long as mute as phantom dim, she glides along the dusky walls, under the black oak rafters grim. The close air of the grated tower stifles a heart that scarce can beat, and though so late and lone the hour, forth pass her wandering, faltering feet. and on the pavement spread before the long front of the mansion grey, her steps imprint the night frost hoar, which pale on grass and granite lay. Not long she stayed where misty moon and shimmering stars could on her look, but through the garden archway soon her strange and gloomy path she took. Some firs, coeval with the tower, their straight black boughs stretched o'er her head. Unseen, beneath the sable bower, rustled her dress and rapid tread. There was an alcove in that shade, screening a rustic seat and stand. Weary she sat her down and laid her hot brow on her burning hand. To solitude and to the night, some words she now in murmurs said, and trickling through her fingers white, some tears of misery she shed. God help me in my grievous need, God help me in my inward pain, which cannot ask for pity's meed, which has no license to complain, which must be borne, yet who can bear hours long, days long, a constant weight, the yoke of absolute despair, a suffering wholly desolate? Who can forever crush the heart, restrain its throbbing, curb its life, dissemble truth with ceaseless art, with outward calm mask inward strife? She waited, as for some reply. The still and cloudy night gave none. Ere long, with deep-drawn, trembling sigh, her heavy plaint again begun. Unloved I love, unwept I weep, grief I restrain, hope I repress. Vain is this anguish, fixed and deep, vainer desires and dreams of bliss. My love awakes no love again, my tears collect and fall unfelt. My sorrow touches none with pain, my humble hopes to nothing melt. For me the universe is dumb, stone death and blank and wholly blind. Life I must bound, existence sum, in the straight limits of one mind, that mind my own. O narrow cell, dark, imageless, a living tomb! There must I sleep, there wake and dwell, content with palsy, pain, and gloom. Again she paused, a moan of pain, a stifled sob alone was heard. Long silence followed, then again her voice the stagnant midnight stirred. Must it be so? Is this my fate? Can I nor struggle nor contend? And am I doomed for years to wait, watching death's lingering axe descend? And when it falls, and when I die, what follows? Vacant nothingness? A blank of lost identity? Erasure both of pain and bliss? I've heard of heaven, I would believe, for if this earth indeed be all, who longest lives may deepest grieve, most blessed, whom sorrows soonest call. Oh, leaving disappointment here, will man find hope on yonder coast? Hope, which on earth shines never clear, and oft in clouds is wholly lost. Will he hope's source of light behold, fruition's spring, where doubts expire, and drink in waves of living gold contentment full for long desire? Will he find bliss, which here he dreamed, rest, which was weariness on earth, knowledge, which if o'er life it beamed, served but to prove it void of worth? Will he find love without lust's leaven, love fearless, tearless, perfect, pure, to all with equal bounty given, in all unfeigned, unfailing, sure? Will he, from penal sufferings free, released from shroud and wormy clod, all calm and glorious rise and see creation's sire, existence' God? Then, glancing back on time's brief woes, will he behold them, fading, fly, swept from eternity's repose, like sullying cloud from pure blue sky? If so, endure my weary frame, and when thy anguish strikes too deep, and when all troubled burns life's flame, think of the quiet, final sleep. Think of the glorious waking hour, which will not dawn on grief and tears, but on a ransomed spirit's power, certain and free from mortal fears. Seek now thy couch, and lie till morn, then from thy chamber, calm, descend, with mind nor tossed, nor anguish torn, but tranquil, fixed, to wait the end. And when thy opening eyes shall see mementos on the chamber wall of one who has forgotten thee, shed not the tear of acrid gall, the tear which, welling from the heart, burns where its drop corrosive falls, and makes each nerve in torture start at feelings it too well recalls. When the sweet hope of being loved through Eden's sunshine on life's way, with every sense and feeling proved expectancy of brightest day, when the hand trembled to receive a thrilling clasp which seemed so near, and the heart ventured to believe another heart esteemed it dear. When words, half love, all tenderness, were hourly heard as hourly spoken, when the long sunny days of bliss only by moonlight nights were broken, till drop by drop the cup of joy, filled full with purple light, was glowing, and faith, which watched it, sparkling high, still never dreamt the overflowing. It fell not with a sudden crashing, it poured not out like open sluice. No, sparkling still, and redly flashing, drained, drop by drop, the generous juice. I saw it sink, and strove to taste it. My eager lips approached the brim. The movement only seemed to waste it. It sank to dregs, all harsh and dim. These I have drunk, and they forever have poisoned life and love for me. A draught from Sodom's lake could never more fiery, salt, and bitter be. Oh, love was all a thin illusion, joy but the desert's flying stream, and glancing back on long delusion, my memory grasps a hollow dream. Yet, whence that wondrous change of feeling, I never knew and cannot learn, nor why my lover's eye congealing grew cold and clouded, proud and stern, nor wherefore, friendship's forms forgetting, he careless left and cool withdrew, nor spoke of grief, nor fond regretting, nor even one glance of comfort threw, and neither word nor token sending of kindness since the parting day, his course, for distant regions spending, went, self-contained and calm, away. O bitter, blighting, keen sensation, which will not weaken, cannot die, hasten thy work of desolation, and let my tortured spirit fly. Vain as the passing gale, my crying. Though lightning struck, I must live on. I know, at heart, there is no dying of love and ruined hope alone. Still strong, and young, and warm with vigour, though scathed, I long shall greenly grow, and many a storm of wildest rigour shall yet break o'er my shivered bough. Rebellious now to blank inertion, my unused strength demands a task. Travel and toil and full exertion are the last, only boon I ask. Whence then this vain and barren dreaming of death and dubious life to come? I see a nearer beacon gleaming over dejection's sea of gloom. The very wildness of my sorrow tells me I yet have innate force, My track of life has been too narrow, effort shall trace a broader course. The world is not in yonder tower, earth is not prisoned in that room, mid whose dark panels, hour by hour, I have sat, the slave and prey of gloom. One feeling, turned to utter anguish, is not my being's only aim. When lorn and loveless, life will languish, but courage can revive the flame. He, when he left me, went a-roving to sunny climes beyond the sea, and I, the weight of woe removing, am free and fetterless as he. New scenes, new language, skies less clouded, may once more wake the wish to live. Strange, foreign towns, astir and crowded, new pictures to the mind may give. New forms and faces, passing ever, may hide the one I still retain, defined and fixed, and fading never, stamped deep on vision, heart, and brain. And we might meet, time may have changed him, chance may reveal the mystery, the secret influence which estranged him. Love may restore him yet to me. False thought, false hope, in scorn be banished. I am not loved, nor loved have been. Recall not then the dream scarce vanished. Traitors, mislead me not again. To words like yours I bid defiance, to such my mental wreck have made. Of God alone, and self-reliance, I ask for solace, hope for aid. Morn comes, and ere meridian glory o'er these my natal woods shall smile, both lonely wood and mansion hoary, I'll leave behind full many a mile. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Anticipation. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. How beautiful the earth is still to thee, how full of happiness, how little fraught with real ill or unreal phantoms of distress. How spring can bring thee glory yet, and summer win thee to forget December's sullen time. Why dost thou hold the treasures fast of youth's delight when youth is past, and thou art near thy prime? When those who were thy own compeers, equals in fortune and in years, have seen their morning melt in tears to clouded, smileless day, blessed had they died untried and young, before their hearts went wandering wrong, poor slaves, subdued by passion strong, a weak and helpless prey. Because I hoped while they enjoyed, and by fulfilment hope destroyed, as children hope with trustful breast, I waited bliss and cherished rest. A thoughtful spirit taught me soon that we must long till life be done, that every face of earthly joy must always fade and always cloy. This I foresaw, and would not chase the fleeting treacheries, but with firm foot and tranquil face, held backward from that tempting race, gazed o'er the sands the waves efface to the enduring seas. There cast my anchor of desire, deep in unknown eternity, nor ever let my spirit tire with looking for what is to be. It is hope's spell that glorifies, like youth, to my maturer eyes, all nature's million mysteries, the fearful and the fair. Hope soothes me in the griefs I know, she lulls my pain for others' woe, and makes me strong to undergo what I am born to bear. Glad comforter, will I not brave, unawed, the darkness of the grave? Nay, smile to hear death's billows rave, sustained, my guide, by thee? The more unjust seems present fate, the more my spirit swells elate, strong in my strength to anticipate rewarding destiny. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Stanzas. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Oh, weep not, love! Each tear that springs in those dear eyes of thine to me a keener suffering brings than if they flowed from mine. And do not droop, however drear the fate awaiting thee. For my sake combat pain and care, and cherish life for me. I do not fear thy love will fail, thy faith is true, I know. But, oh, my love, thy strength is frail for such a life of woe. Were it not for this, I well could trace, though banished long from thee, life's rugged path and boldly face the storms that threatened me. Fear not for me, I have steeled my mind, sorrow and strife to greet. Joy with my love I leave behind, care with my friends I meet. A mother's sad reproachful eye, a father's scowling brow, but he may frown and she may sigh, I will not break my vow. I love my mother, I revere my sire, but fear not me. Believe that death alone can tear this faithful heart from thee. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Gilbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Part 1. The Garden. Above the city hung the moon, right o'er a plot of ground, where flowers and orchard trees were fenced, with lofty walls around. 'Twas Gilbert's garden. There, to-night, awhile he walked alone, and, tired with sedentary toil, mused where the moonlight shone. This garden, in a city heart, lay still as houseless wild, though many-windowed mansion fronts were around it closely piled. But thick their walls, and those within lived lives by noise unstirred. Like wafting of an angel's wing, time's flight by them was heard. Some soft piano notes alone were sweet as faintly given, where ladies doubtless cheered the hearth with song, that winter even. The city's many mingled sounds rose like the hum of ocean. They rather lulled the heart than roused its pulse to faster motion. Gilbert has paced the single walk an hour, yet is not weary, and, though it be a winter night, he feels nor cold nor dreary. The prime of life is in his veins, and sends his blood fast flowing, and fancy's fervour warms the thoughts, now in his bosom glowing. Those thoughts recur to early love, or what he love would name, though haply Gilbert's secret deeds might other title claim. Such theme not oft his mind absorbs, he to the world clings fast, and too much for the present lives to linger o'er the past. But now the evening's deep repose has glided to his soul, that moonlight falls on memory, and shows her fading scroll. One name appears in every line, the gentle rays shine o'er, and still he smiles, and still repeats that one name, Elinor. There is no sorrow in his smile, no kindness in his tone. The triumph of a selfish heart speaks coldly there alone. He says, "She loved me more than life, and truly it was sweet to see so fair a woman kneel in bondage at my feet. There was a sort of quiet bliss to be so deeply loved, to gaze on trembling eagerness and sit myself unmoved. And when it pleased my pride to grant at last some rare caress, to feel the fever of that hand my fingers deigned to press. 'Twas sweet to see her strive to hide what every glance revealed, endowed the while with despot might her destiny to wield. I knew myself no perfect man, nor as she deemed divine. I knew that I was glorious but by her reflected shine. Her youth, her native energy, her powers new-born and fresh, 'twas these with Godhead sanctified my sensual frame of flesh. Yet, like a god did I descend at last to meet her love, and like a god I then withdrew to my own heaven above. And never more could she invoke my presence to her sphere. No prayer, no plaint, no cry of hers could win my awful ear. I knew her blinded constancy would ne'er my deeds betray, and calm in conscience, whole in heart, I went my tranquil way. Yet sometimes I still feel a wish, the fond and flattering pain of passion's anguish to create in her young breast again. Bright was the lustre of her eyes when they caught fire from mine. If I had power, this very hour again I'd light their shine. But where she is, or how she lives, I have no clue to know. I've heard she long my absence pined, and left her home in woe. But busied then in gathering gold, as I am busied now, I could not turn from such pursuit, to weep a broken vow. Nor could I give to fatal risk the fame I ever prized. Even now I fear that precious fame is too much compromised. An inward trouble dims his eye, some riddle he would solve, some method to unloose a knot his anxious thoughts revolve. He, pensive, leans against a tree, a leafy evergreen. The boughs, the moonlight, intercept and hide him like a screen. He starts, the tree shakes with his tremor, yet nothing near him passed. He hurries up the garden alley, in strangely sudden haste. With shaking hand he lifts the latchet, steps o'er the threshold stone. The heavy door slips from his fingers, it shuts, and he is gone. What touched, transfixed, appalled his soul? A nervous thought, no more. 'Twas sink like stone in placid pool, and calm close smoothly o'er. Part 2. The Parlour. Warm is the parlour atmosphere, serene the lamp's soft light. The vivid embers, red and clear, proclaim a frosty night. Books, varied, on the table lie, 3 children o'er them bend, and all with curious, eager eye the turning leaf attend. Picture and tale alternately their simple hearts delight, and interest deep and tempered glee illume their aspects bright. The parents, from their fireside place, behold that pleasant scene, and joy is on the mother's face, pride in the father's mien. As Gilbert sees his blooming wife, beholds his children fair, no thought has he of transient strife, or past, though piercing fear. The voice of happy infancy lisps sweetly in his ear. His wife, with pleased and peaceful eye, sits kindly smiling near. The fire glows on her silken dress, and shows its ample grace, and warmly tints each hazel tress curled soft around her face. The beauty that in youth he wooed is beauty still unfaded, the brow of ever placid mood no churlish grief has shaded. Prosperity in Gilbert's home abides, the guest of years. There want or discord never come, and seldom toil or tears. The carpets bear the peaceful print of comfort's velvet tread, and golden gleams from plenty sent in every nook are shed. The very silken spaniel seems of quiet ease to tell, as near its mistress' feet it dreams, sunk in a cushion's swell. And smiles seem native to the eyes of those sweet children 3. They have but looked on tranquil skies, and know not misery. Alas, that misery should come in such an hour as this! Why could she not so calm a home a little longer miss? But she is now within the door, her steps advancing glide. Her sullen shade has crossed the floor, she stands at Gilbert's side. She lays her hand upon his heart, it bounds with agony. His fireside chair shakes with the start that shook the garden tree. His wife towards the children looks, she does not mark his mien. The children bending o'er their books his terror have not seen. In his own home, by his own hearth, he sits in solitude, and circled round with light and mirth, cold horror chills his blood. His mind would hold with desperate clutch the scene that round him lies. No, changed, as by some wizard's touch the present prospect flies. A tumult vague, a viewless strife, his futile struggles crush. Twixt him and his, an unknown life and unknown feelings rush. He sees, but scarce can language paint the tissue fancy weaves, for words oft give but echo faint of thoughts the mind conceives. Noise, tumult strange, and darkness dim efface both light and quiet. No shape is in those shadows grim, no voice in that wild riot. Sustained and strong, a wondrous blast above and round him blows. A greenish gloom, dense overcast, each moment denser grows. He nothing knows, nor clearly sees. Resistance checks his breath. The high, impetuous, ceaseless breeze blows on him cold as death. And still the undulating gloom mocks sight with formless motion. Was such sensation Jonah's doom, gulfed in the depths of ocean? Streaking the air, the nameless vision, fast driven, deep-sounding flows. Oh, whence it soars, and what its mission? How will its terrors close? Long sweeping, rushing, vast and void, the universe it swallows, and still the dark, devouring tide a typhoon tempest follows. More slowly it rolls, its furious race sinks to a solemn gliding. The stunning roar, the wind's wild chase, to stillness are subsiding. And, slowly borne along, a form the shapeless chaos varies, poised in the eddy to the storm, before the eye tarries. A woman drowned, sunk in the deep, on a long wave reclining. The circling waters crystal sweep, like glass her shape enshrining. Her pale dead face to Gilbert turned, seems as in sleep reposing. A feeble light now first discerned, the features well disclosing. No effort from the haunted air the ghastly scene could banish. That hovering wave arrested there, rolled, throbbed, but did not vanish. If Gilbert upward turned his gaze, he saw the ocean shadow. If he looked down, the endless seas lay green as summer meadow. And straight before, the pale corpse lay, upborne by air or billow. So near he could have touched the spray that churned around its pillow. The hollow anguish of the face had moved a fiend to sorrow. Not death's fixed calm could raise the trace of suffering's deep-worn furrow. All moved, a strong returning blast, the mass of waters raising, bore wave and passive carcass past, while Gilbert yet was gazing. Deep in her isle conceiving womb, it seemed the ocean thundered, and soon by realms of rushing gloom were seer and phantom sundered. Then swept some timbers from a wreck, on following surges riding, then seaweed in the turbid wrack uptorn went slowly gliding. The horrid shade, by slow degrees, a beam of light defeated, and then the roar of raving seas, fast, far, and faint, retreated. And all was gone, gone like a mist, course, billows, tempest, wreck. 3 children close to Gilbert pressed, and clung around his neck. Good night, the pratless said, and kissed their father's cheek. 'Twas now the hour their quiet bed and placid rest to seek. The mother with her offspring goes to hear their evening prayer. She naught of Gilbert's vision knows, and naught of his despair. Yet, pitying God, abridge the time of anguish, now his fate. Though haply great has been his crime, thy mercy too is great. Gilbert at length uplifts his head, bent for some moments low, and there is neither grief nor dread upon his subtle brow. For well can he his feelings task, and well his looks command, his features well his heart can mask, with smiles and smoothness bland. Gilbert has reasoned with his mind, he says 'twas all a dream. He strives his inward sight to blind against truth's inward beam. He pitied not that shadowy thing, when it was flesh and blood, nor now can pity's balmy spring refresh his arid mood. And if that dream has spoken truth, thus musingly he says, if Eleanor be dead in sooth, such chance the shock repays. A net was woven round my feet, I scarce could further go, ere shame had forced a fast retreat, dishonour brought me low. Conceal her then, deep, silent sea, give her a secret grave. She sleeps in peace, and I am free, no longer terror's slave. And homage still from all the world shall greet my spotless name, since surges break and waves are curled above its threatened shame. Part 3. The Welcome Home. Above the city hangs the moon, some clouds are boding rain. Gilbert, erewhile on journey gone, to-night comes home again. 10 years have passed above his head, each year has brought him gain. His prosperous life has smoothly sped, without or tear or stain. 'Tis somewhat late. The city clocks 12 deep vibrations toll, as Gilbert at the portal knocks, which is his journey's goal. The street is still and desolate, the moon hid by a cloud. Gilbert, impatient, will not wait, his second knock peals loud. The clocks are hushed, there's not a light in any window nigh, and not a single planet bright looks from the clouded sky. The air is raw, the rain descends, a bitter north wind blows. His cloak the traveller scarce defends. Will not the door unclose? He knocks the 3rd time, and the last. His summons now they hear. Within, a footstep hurrying fast is heard approaching near. The bolt is drawn, the clanking chain falls to the floor of stone, and Gilbert to his heart will strain his wife and children soon. The hand that lifts the latchet holds a candle to his side, and Gilbert on the step beholds a woman clad in white. Lo! Water from her dripping dress runs on the streaming floor. From every dark and clinging tress the drops incessant pour. There's none but her to welcome him. She holds the candle high, and motionless in form and limb stands cold and silent nigh. There's sand and seaweed on her robe, her hollow eyes are blind. No pulse in such a frame can throb, no life is there defined. Gilbert turned ashy white, but still his lips vouchsafed no cry. He spurred his strength and master will to pass the figure by, but moving slow, it faced him straight, it would not flinch nor quail. Then first did Gilbert's strength abate, his stony firmness quail. He sank upon his knees and prayed, the shape stood rigid there. He called aloud for human aid, no human aid was near. An accent strange did thus repeat heaven's stern but just decree. The measure thou to her didst mete, to thee shall measured be. Gilbert sprang from his bended knees, by the pale spectre pushed, and, wild as one whom demons seize, up the whole staircase rushed, entered his chamber, near the bed, sheathed steel and firearms hung. Impelled by maniac purpose dread, he chose those stores among. Across his throat a keen-edged knife with vigorous hand he drew. The wound was wide, his outraged life rushed rash and redly through. and thus died, by a shameful death, a wise and worldly man, who never drew but selfish breath, since first his life began. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. The Prisoner, a Fragment. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. In the dungeon crypts idly did I stray, reckless of the lives wasting there away. Draw the ponderous bars, open, warder stern. He dared not say me nay, the hinges harshly turn. Our guests are darkly lodged, I whispered, gazing through the vault whose graded eye showed heaven more grey than blue. This was when glad spring laughed in awaking pride. "Ay, darkly lodged enough," returned my sullen guide. Then, God forgive my youth, forgive my careless tongue, I scoffed, as the chill chains on the damp flagstones rung. "Confined in triple walls, art thou so much to fear, that we must bind thee down and clench thy fetters here?" The captive raised her face. It was as soft and mild as sculptured marble saint or slumbering unweaned child. It was so soft and mild, it was so sweet and fair, pain could not trace a line nor grief a shadow there. The captive raised her hand and pressed it to her brow. "I have been struck," she said, "and I am suffering now. Yet these are little worth, your bolts and iron strong, and were they forged in steel, they could not hold me long." Hoarse laughed the jailer grim. "Shall I be one to hear? Dost think, fond dreaming wretch, that I shall grant thy prayer? Oh, better still, wilt melt my master's heart with groans. Ah, sooner might the sun thaw down these granite stones. My master's voice is low, his aspect bland and kind, but hard as hardest flint the soul that lurks behind. And I am rough and rude, yet not more rough to see than is the hidden ghost that has its home in me." About her lips there played a smile of almost scorn. "My friend," she gently said, "you have not heard me mourn. When you my kindred's lives, my lost life can restore, then may I weep and sue, but never friend before. Still, let my tyrants know I am not doomed to wear, year after year in gloom and desolate despair. A messenger of hope comes every night to me, and offers for short life eternal liberty. He comes with western winds, with evening's wandering airs, with that clear dusk of heaven that brings the thickest stars. Winds take a pensive tone, and stars a tender fire, and visions rise and change that kill me with desire. Desire for nothing known in my maturer years, when joy grew mad with awe at counting future tears. When, if my spirit's sky was full of flashes warm, I knew not whence they came, from sun or thunder storm. But first, a hush of peace, a soundless calm descends. The struggle of distress and fierce impatience ends. Mute music soothes my breast, unuttered harmony, that I could never dream till earth was lost to me. Then dawns the invisible, the unseen its truth reveals. My outward sense is gone, my inward essence feels. Its wings are almost free, its home, its harbour found. Measuring the gulf it stoops and dares the final bound. Oh, dreadful is the check, intense the agony, when the ear begins to hear, and the eye begins to see. When the pulse begins to throb, the brain to think again, the soul to feel the flesh, and the flesh to feel the chain. Yet I would lose no sting, would wish no torture less. The more that anguish racks, the earlier it will bless. And robed in fires of hell, or bright with heavenly shine, if it but herald death, the vision is divine." She ceased to speak, and we, unanswering, turned to go. We had no further power to work the captive woe. Her cheek, her gleaming eye declared that man had given a sentence unapproved and overruled by heaven. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. If This Be All. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. O God, if this indeed be all that life can show to me, if on my aching brow may fall no freshening dew from Thee, if with no brighter light than this the lamp of hope may glow, and I may only dream of bliss, and wake to weary woe, if friendship's solace must decay when other joys are gone, and love must keep so far away while I go wandering on, wandering and toiling without gain, the slave of others' will, with constant care and frequent pain, despised, forgotten still, grieving to look on vice and sin, yet powerless to quell the silent current from within, the outward torrents swell, while all the good I would impart, the feelings I would share, are driven backward to my heart, and turn to wormwood, there. If clouds must ever keep from sight the glories of the sun, and I must suffer winter's blight, ere summer is begun, if life must be so full of care, then call me soon to Thee, or give me strength enough to bear my load of misery. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Life. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Life, believe, is not a dream, so dark as sages say. Oft a little morning rain foretells a pleasant day. Sometimes there are clouds of gloom, but these are transient all, if the shower will make the roses bloom, or why lament its fall? Rapidly, merrily, life's sunny hours flit by. Gratefully, cheerily, enjoy them as they fly. What though death at times steps in and calls our best away? What though sorrow seems to win, o'er hope a heavy sway? Yet hope again elastic springs, unconquered, though she fell, still buoyant are her golden wings, still strong to bear us well. Manfully, fearlessly, the day of trial bear, for gloriously, victoriously, can courage quell despair. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Hope. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Hope was but a timid friend. She sat without the grated den, watching how my fate would tend, even a selfish-hearted man. She was cruel in her fear. Through the bars, one dreary day, I looked out to see her there, and she turned her face away. Like a false guard, false watch-keeping, still in strife she whispered peace. She would sing while I was weeping. If I listened, she would cease. False she was, and unrelenting, when my last joys strewed the ground. Even sorrow saw, repenting, those sad relics scattered round. Hope, whose whisper would have given balm to all my frenzied pain, stretched her wings and soared to heaven, went, and ne'er returned again. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Memory. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Brightly the sun of summer shone, green fields and waving woods upon, and soft winds wandered by. Above, a sky of purest blue, around, bright flowers of loveliest hue, allured the gazer's eye. But what were all these charms to me, when one sweet breath of memory came gently wafting by? I closed my eyes against the day, and called my willing soul away from earth and air and sky, that I might simply fancy there one little flower, a primrose fair, just opening into sight, as in the days of infancy, an opening primrose seemed to me a source of strange delight. Sweet memory, ever smile on me. Nature's chief beauties spring from thee. Oh, still thy tribute bring. Still make the golden crocus shine among the flowers, the most divine, the glory of the spring. Still in the wallflower's fragrance dwell, and hover round the slight bluebell, my childhood's darling flower. Smile on the little daisy still, the buttercup's bright goblet fill with all thy former power. Forever hang thy dreamy spell round mountain star and heather bell, and do not pass away from sparkling frost or wreathed snow, and whisper when the wild winds blow, or rippling waters play. Is childhood then so all divine, or memory, is the glory thine, that halos thus the past? Not all divine, its pangs of grief, although perchance their stay be brief, are bitter while they last. Nor is the glory all thine own, for on our earliest joys alone that holy light is cast. With such a ray no spell of thine can make our later pleasures shine, though long ago they passed. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. The Letter. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. What is she writing? Watch her now. How fast her fingers move. How eagerly her youthful brow is bent in thought above. Her long curls, drooping, shade the light. She puts them quick aside, nor knows that band of crystals bright her hasty touch untied. It slips adown her silken dress, falls glittering at her feet. Unmarked it falls, for she no less pursues her labour sweet. The very loveliest hour that shines is in that deep blue sky. The golden sun of June declines, it has not caught her eye. The cheerful lawn and unclosed gate, the wide road far away, in vain for her light footsteps wait, she comes not forth to-day. There is an open door of glass close by that lady's chair. From thence to slopes of mossy grass descends a marble stair. Tall plants of bright and spicy bloom around the threshold grow. Their leaves and blossoms shade the room from that sun's deepening glow. Why does she not a moment glance between the clustering flowers, and mark in heaven the radiant dance of evening's rosy hours? Oh, look again! Still fixed her eye, unsmiling, earnest, still, and fast her pen and fingers fly, urged by her eager will. Her soul is in the absorbing task. To whom then doth she write? Nay, watch her still more closely, ask her own eyes' serious light. Where do they turn, as now her pen hangs o'er the unfinished line? Whence fell the tearful gleam that then did in their dark spheres shine? The summer parlour looks so dark, when from that sky you turn, and from the expanse of that green park you scarce may aught discern. Yet o'er the piles of porcelain rare, o'er flower stand, couch, and vase, sloped as if leaning on the air, one picture meets the gaze. 'Tis there she turns. You may not see distinct what form defines the clouded mass of mystery yon broad gold frame confines. But look again, inured to shade, your eyes now faintly trace a stalwart form, a massive head, a firm, determined face. Black Spanish locks, a sunburnt cheek, a brow high, broad, and wide, where every furrow seems to speak of mind and moral might. Is that her God? I cannot tell. Her eye a moment met the impending picture, then it fell, darkened and dimmed and wet. A moment more, her task is done, and sealed the letter lies, and now towards the setting sun she turns her tearful eyes. Those tears flow over, wonder not, for by the inscription see in what a strange and distant spot her heart of hearts must be. 3 seas and many a league of land that letter must pass o'er, ere read by him to whose loved hand 'tis sent from England's shore. Remote colonial wilds detain her husband, loved though stern. She mid that smiling English scene weeps for his wished return. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. A Daydream. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. On a sunny brae, alone I lay, one summer afternoon. It was the marriage time of May, with her young lover June. From her mother's heart seemed loath to part, that queen of bridal charms, but her father smiled on the fairest child he ever held in his arms. The trees did wave their plumy crests, the glad birds carolled clear, and I, of all the wedding guests, was only sullen there. There was not one but wished to shun my aspect void of cheer. The very grey rocks, looking on, asked, "What do you do here?" And I could utter no reply. In sooth, I did not know why I had brought a clouded eye to greet the general glow. So, resting on a heathy bank, I took my heart to me, and we together sadly sank into a reverie. We thought, when winter comes again, where will these bright things be? All vanished, like a vision vain, an unreal mockery. The birds that now so blithely sing through deserts frozen dry, poor spectres of the perished spring, in famished troops will fly. And why should we be glad at all? The leaf is hardly green, before a token of its fall is on the surface seen. Now, whether it were really so, I never could be sure, but as in fit of peevish woe, I stretched me on the moor. 1,000 gleaming fires seemed kindling in the air, 1,000 silvery lyres resound far and near. Methought, the very breath I breathed was full of sparks divine, and all my heather couch was wreathed by that celestial shine. And while the wide earth echoing rung to their strange minstrelsy, the little glittering spirits sung, or seemed to sing to me. O mortal, mortal, let them die, let time and tears destroy, that we may overflow the sky with universal joy. Let grief distract the sufferer's breast, and night obscure his way. They hasten him to endless rest and everlasting day. To thee the word is like a tomb, a desert's naked shore. To us, in unimagined bloom, it brightens more and more. And, could we lift the veil and give one brief glimpse to thine eye, thou wouldst rejoice for these that live, because they live to die. The music ceased. The noonday dream, like dream of night, withdrew. But fancy, still, will sometimes deem her fond creation true. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. To Cowper. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Sweet are thy strains, celestial bard, and oft, in childhood's years, I've read them o'er and o'er again, with flood of silent tears. The language of my inmost heart I traced in every line. My sins, my sorrows, hopes and fears were there, and only mine. All for myself the sigh would swell, the tear of anguish start. I little knew what wilder woe had filled the poet's heart. I did not know the nights of gloom, the days of misery, the long, long years of dark despair that crushed and tortured thee. But they're gone, from earth at length thy gentle soul is past, and in the bosom of its God has found its home at last. It must be so, if God is love, and answers fervent prayer. Then surely thou shalt dwell on high, and I may meet thee there. Is he the source of every good, the spring of purity? Then in thine hours of deepest woe, thy God was still with thee. How else, when every hope was fled, couldst thou so fondly cling to holy things and holy men? And how so sweetly sing of things that God alone could teach? And whence that purity, that hatred of all sinful ways, that gentle charity? Are these the symptoms of a heart of heavenly grace bereft, forever banished from its God, to Satan's fury left? Yet, should thy darkest fears be true, if heaven be so severe, that such a soul as thine is lost, oh, how shall I appear? Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Regret. Read for LibriVox.org by Alice Christoff. Long ago I wished to leave the house where I was born. Long ago I used to grieve, my home seemed so forlorn. In other years its silent rooms were filled with haunting fears. Now their very memory comes, o'ercharged with tender tears. Life and marriage I have known, things once deemed so bright. Now how utterly is flown every ray of light. Mid the unknown sea of life, I no blessed isle have found. At last, through all its wild wave strife, my bark is homeward bound. Farewell, dark and rolling deep, farewell, foreign shore. Open in unclouded sweep, thou glorious realm before. Yet, though I had safely passed that weary vexed main, once loved voice through surge and blast could call me back again. Though the soul's bright morning rose o'er paradise for me, William, even from heaven's repose, I'd turn, invoked by thee. Storm nor surge should e'er arrest my soul exulting then. All my heaven was once thy breast. Would it were mine again. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. To Imagination. Read for LibriVox.org by Alice Christoff. When, weary with the long day's care, and earthly change from pain to pain, and lost and ready to despair, thy kind voice calls me back again. O my true friend, I am not lone, while thou canst speak with such a tone. So hopeless is the world without, the world within I doubly prize, thy world where guile and hate and doubt and cold suspicion never rise, where thou and I and liberty have undisputed sovereignty. What matters it that all around danger and guilt and darkness lie, if but within our bosoms bound we hold a bright and troubled sky, warm with 10,000 mingled rays of suns that know no winter days? Reason, indeed, may oft complain for nature's sad reality, and tell the suffering heart how vain its cherished dreams must always be. And truth may rudely trample down the flowers of fancy newly blown. But thou art ever there to bring the hovering vision back and breathe new glories o'er the blighted spring, and call a lovelier life and death, and whisper with a voice divine of real worlds as bright as thine. I trust not to thy phantom bliss, yet still in evening's quiet hour, with never failing thankfulness, I welcome thee, benignant power, sure solacer of human cares, and sweeter hope when hope despairs. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Doubter's Prayer. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Eternal power of earth and air, unseen, yet seen in all around, remote but dwelling everywhere, though silent, heard in every sound. If e'er thine ear in mercy bend, when wretched mortals cried to thee, and if indeed thy Son was sent to save lost sinners such as me, then hear me now, while kneeling here, I lift to thee my heart and eye, and all my soul ascends in prayer. Oh, give me faith, I cry. Without some glimmering in my heart, I could not raise this fervent prayer. But oh, a stronger light impart, and in thy mercy fix it there. While faith is with me, I am blessed. It turns my darkest night to day. But while I clasp it to my breast, I often feel it slide away. Then cold and dark my spirit sinks, to see my light of life depart, and every fiend of hell, methinks, enjoys the anguish of my heart. What shall I do, if all my love, my hopes, my toil are cast away, and if there be no God above, to hear and bless me when I pray? If this be vain delusion all, if death be an eternal sleep, and none can hear my secret call, or see the silent tears I weep. Oh, help me, God, for thou alone canst my distracted soul relieve. Forsake it not, it is thine own, though weak, yet longing to believe. Oh, drive these cruel doubts away, and make me know that thou art God. A faith that shines by night and day will lighten every earthly load. If I believe that Jesus died, and, waking, rose to reign above, then surely sorrow, sin, and pride must yield to peace, and hope, and love. And all the blessed words he said will strength and holy joy impart, a shield of safety o'er my head, a spring of comfort in my heart. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Presentiment. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Sister, you've sat there all the day. Come to the hearth a while. The wind so wildly sweeps away, the clouds so darkly pile. That open book has lain unread for hours upon your knee. You've never smiled nor turned your head. What can you, sister, see? Come hither, Jane, look down the field. How dense a mist creeps on! The path, the hedge, are both concealed. Even the white gate is gone. No landscape through the fog I trace, no hill with pastures green. All featureless is nature's face, all masked in clouds her mien. Scarce is the rustle of a leaf heard in our garden now. The year grows old, its days wax brief, the tresses leave its brow, the rain drives fast before the wind, the sky is blank and grey. O Jane, what sadness fills the mind on such a dreary day! You think too much, my sister dear, you sit too long alone. What though November days be drear? Full soon will they be gone. I've swept the hearth and placed your chair. Come, Emma, sit by me. Our own fireside is never drear, though late and wintry wane the air, though rough the night may be. The peaceful glow of our fireside imparts no peace to me. My thoughts would rather wander wide than rest, dear Jane, with thee. I am on a distant journey bound, and if about my heart too closely kindred ties were bound, 'twould break when forced to part. Soon will November days be o'er. Well have you spoken, Jane. My own forebodings tell me more. For me, I know by presage sure, they'll ne'er return again. Ere long, nor sun nor storm to me will bring or joy or gloom. They reach not that eternity which soon will be my home. 8 months are gone. The summer sun sets in a glorious sky. A quiet field, all green and lone, receives its rosy dye. Jane sits upon a shaded stile. Alone she sits there now. Her head rests on her hand the while, and thought o'ercasts her brow. She's thinking of one winter's day, a few short months ago, when Emma's bier was borne away o'er wastes of frozen snow. She's thinking how that drifted snow dissolved in spring's first gleam, and how her sister's memory now fades, even as fades a dream. The snow will whiten earth again, but Emma comes no more. She left mid winter's sleet and rain this world for heaven's far shore. On Beulah's hills she wanders now, on Eden's tranquil plain. To her shall Jane hereafter go, she ne'er shall come to Jane. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. How Clear She Shines. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. How clear she shines! How quietly I lie beneath her guardian light, while heaven and earth are whispering me, "Tomorrow wake, but dream tonight." Yes, fancy, come my fairy love, these throbbing temples softly kiss, and bend my lonely couch above, and bring me rest, and bring me bliss. The world is going, dark world, adieu. Grim world, conceal thee till the day. The heart thou canst not all subdue must still resist if thou delay. Thy love I will not share, thy hatred only wakes a smile. Thy griefs may wound, thy wrong may tear, but oh, thy lies shall ne'er beguile. While gazing on the stars that glow above me, in that stormless sea, I long to hope that all the woe creation knows is held in thee. And this shall be my dream tonight. I'll think the heaven of glorious spheres is rolling on its course of light in endless bliss through endless years. I'll think there's not one world above, far as these straining eyes can see, where wisdom ever laughed at love, or virtue crouched to infamy. Where, writhing 'neath the strokes of fate, the mangled wretch was forced to smile, to match his patience 'gainst her hate, his heart rebellious all the while. Where pleasure still will lead to wrong, and helpless reason warn in vain, and truth is weak and treachery strong, and joy the surest path to pain, and peace the lethargy of grief, and hope a phantom of the soul, and life a labour void and brief, and death the despot of the whole. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Teacher's Monologue. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. The room is quiet, thoughts alone people its mute tranquillity. The yoke put off, the long task done, I am, as it is bliss to be, still and untroubled. Now I see, for the first time, how soft the day, o'er waveless water, stirless tree, silent and sunny wings its way. Now, as I watch that distant hill, so faint, so blue, so far removed, Sweet dreams of home my heart may fill, that home where I am known and loved. It lies beyond, yon azure brow parts me from all earth holds for me, and morn and eve my yearnings flow, thitherward tending changelessly. My happiest hours, I all the time, I love to keep in memory, lapsed among moors, ere life's first prime decayed to dark anxiety. Sometimes I think a narrow heart makes me thus mourn those far away, and keeps my love so far apart from friends and friendships of to-day. Sometimes I think 'tis but a dream I treasure up so jealously, all the sweet thoughts I live on seem to vanish into vacancy. And then this strange, coarse world around seems all that's palpable and true, and every sight and every sound combines my spirit to subdue to aching grief so void and lone. Is life and earth so worse than vain, the hopes that in my own heart sown and cherished by such sun and rain as joy and transient sorrow shed, have ripened to a harvest there? Alas, methinks I hear it said, thy golden sheaves are empty air. All fades away, my very home I think will soon be desolate. I hear at times a warning come of bitter partings at its gate, and if I should return and see the hearth fire quenched, the vacant chair, and hear it whispered mournfully that farewells have been spoken there, what shall I do, and whither turn? Where look for peace, when cease to mourn? 'Tis not the air I wish to play, the strain I wish to sing. My wilful spirit slipped away, and struck another string. I neither wanted smile nor tear, bright joy nor bitter woe, but just a song that sweet and clear, though haply said, might flow. A quiet song, to solace me, when sleep refused to come, a strain to chase despondency when sorrowful for home. In vain I try, I cannot sing, all feels so cold and dead, no wild distress, no gushing spring of tears in anguish shed, but all the impatient gloom of one who waits a distant day, when some great task of suffering done, repose shall toil repay. For youth departs, and pleasure flies, and life consumes away, and youth's rejoicing ardour dies beneath this drear delay. And patience, weary with her yoke, is yielding to despair, and health's elastic spring is broke beneath the strain of care. Life will be gone ere I have lived. Where now is life's first prime? I've worked and studied, longed and grieved, through all that rosy time. To toil, to think, to long, to grieve, is such my future fate? The morn was dreary, must the eve be also desolate? Well, such a life at least makes death a welcome, wished-for friend. Then aid me reason, patience, faith, to suffer to the end. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Sympathy. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. There should be no despair for you, while nightly stars are burning, while evening pours its silent dew, and sunshine gilds the morning. There should be no despair, though tears may flow down like a river. Are not the best beloved of years around your heart forever? They weep, you weep, it must be so. Wind sighs, you are sighing, and winter sheds his grief in snow where autumn's leaves are lying. Yet these revive, and from their fate your fate cannot be parted. Then journey on, if not elate, still never broken-hearted. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Past Days. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. 'Tis strange to think there was a time when mirth was not an empty name, when laughter really cheered the heart, and frequent smiles unbidden came, and tears of grief would only flow in sympathy for others' woe. When speech expressed the inward thought, and heart to kindred heart was bare, and summer days were far too short for all the pleasures crowded there. And silence, solitude, and rest, now welcome to the weary breast, were all unprized, uncourted then, and all the joy one spirit showed, the other deeply felt again, and friendship like a river flowed, constant and strong its silent course, for naught withstood its gentle force. When night, the holy time of peace, was dreaded as the parting hour, when speech and mirth at once must cease, and silence must resume her power. Though ever free from pains and woes, she only brought us calm repose. And when the blessed dawn again brought daylight to the blushing skies, we woke, and not reluctant then, to joyless labour did we rise, but full of hope and glad and gay, we welcomed the returning day. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Passion. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Some have won a wild delight by daring wildest sorrow. Could I gain thy love tonight, I'd hazard death tomorrow. Could the battle struggle earn one kind glance from thine eye, how this withering heart would burn, the heady fight to try. Welcome nights of broken sleep, and days of carnage cold, could I deem that thou wouldst weep to hear my perils told. Tell me, if with wandering bands I roam full far away, wilt thou to those distant lands in spirit ever stray? Wild, long, a trumpet sounds afar, bid me go, where Syke and Britain meet in war, on Indian Sutlej's flow. Blood has dyed the Sutlej's waves with scarlet stain, I know. Indus' borders yawn with graves. Yet, command me go. Though rank and high the holocaust of nations steams to heaven, glad I'd join the death-doomed host, were but the mandate given. Passion's strength should nerve my arm, its ardour stir my life, till human force to that dread charm should yield, and sink in wild alarm like trees to tempest strife. If hot from war I seek thy love, darest thou turn aside? Darest thou then my fire reprove, by scorn and maddening pride? No, my will shall yet control thy will, so high and free, and love shall tame that haughty soul, yes, tenderest love for me. I'll read my triumph in thine eyes, behold and prove the change, then leave perchance my noble prize once more in arms to range. I'd die when all the foam is up, the bright wine sparkling high, nor wait till in the exhausted cup life's dull dregs only lie. Then love thus crowned with sweet reward, hope blessed with fullness large, I'd mount the saddle, draw the sword, and perish in the charge. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Preference. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Not in scorn do I reprove thee, not in pride thy vows I waive, but believe I could not love thee, wert thou prince, and I a slave. These then are thine oaths of passion? This thy tenderness for me? Judged even by thine own confession, thou art steeped in perfidy. Having vanquished, thou wouldst leave me, thus I read thee long ago. Therefore dared I not deceive thee, even with friendship's gentle show. Therefore with impassive coldness have I ever met thy gaze, though, full oft, with daring boldness, thou thine eyes to mine didst raise. Why that smile? thou n'art deeming this my coldness all untrue, but a mask of frozen seeming, hiding secret fires from view. Touch my hand, thou self-deceiver. Nay, be calm, for I am so. Does it burn? Does my lip quiver? Has mine eye a troubled glow? Canst thou call a moment's colour to my forehead, to my cheek? Canst thou tinge their tranquil pallor with one fluttering, feverish streak? Am I marble? What? No woman could so calm before thee stand? Nothing living, sentient, human, could so coldly take thy hand? Yes, a sister might, a mother. My goodwill is sisterly. Dream not then I strive to smother fires that inly burn for thee. Rave not, rage not, wrath is fruitless, fury cannot change my mind. I but deem the feeling rootless, which so whirls in passion's wind. Can I love? Oh, deeply, truly, warmly, fondly, but not thee, and my love is answered duly with an equal energy. Wouldst thou see thy rival? Hasten, draw that curtain soft aside. Look where yon thick branches chasten noon with shades of eventide. In that glade where foliage blending forms a green arch overhead, sits thy rival thoughtful bending o'er a stand with papers spread. Motionless, his fingers plying that untired and resting pen, time and tide unnoticed flying, there he sits, the first of men. Man of conscience, man of reason, stern perchance but ever just, foe to falsehood, wrong, and treason, honour's shield and virtue's trust, worker, thinker, firm defender of heaven's truth, man's liberty, soul of iron, proof to slander, rock where founders tyranny. Fame he seeks not, but full surely she will seek him in his home. This I know, and wait securely for the atoning hour to come. To that man my faith is given, therefore, soldier, cease to sue. While God reigns in earth and heaven, I to him will still be true. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Plead for me. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Oh, thy bright eyes must answer now, when reason with a scornful brow is mocking at my overthrow. Oh, thy sweet tongue must plead for me, and tell why I have chosen thee. Stern reason is to judgment come, arrayed in all her forms of gloom. Wilt thou, my advocate, be dumb? No, radiant angel, speak and say why I did cast the world away, why I have persevered to shun the common paths that others run, and on a strange road journeyed on, heedless alike of wealth and power, of glory's wreath and pleasure's flower. These once indeed seemed beings divine, and they perchance heard vows of mine, and saw my offerings on their shrine. But careless gifts are seldom prized, and mine were worthily despised. So, with a ready heart I swore to seek their altar stone no more, and gave my spirit to adore thee, ever-present phantom thing, my slave, my comrade, and my king. A slave, because I rule thee still, incline thee to my changeful will, and make thy influence good or ill. A comrade, for by day and night thou art my intimate delight, my darling pain that wounds and sears, and wrings a blessing out from tears, by deadening me to earthly cares. And yet a king, though prudence well have taught thy subject to rebel. And am I wrong to worship where faith cannot doubt nor hope despair, since my own soul can grant my prayer? Speak, God of visions, plead for me, and tell why I have chosen thee. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Consolation. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Though bleak these woods, and damp the ground, with fallen leaves so thickly strown, and cold the wind that wanders round, with wild and melancholy moan, there is a friendly roof, I know, might shield me from the wintry blast. There is a fire whose ruddy glow will cheer me for my wanderings past. And so, though still, where'er I go, cold stranger glances meet my eye, though, when my spirit sinks in woe, unheeded swells the unbidden sigh, though solitude endured too long bids youthful joys too soon decay, makes mirth a stranger to my tongue, and overclouds my noon of day, when kindly thoughts, that would have way, flow back discouraged to my breast, I know there is, though far away, a home where heart and soul may rest. Warm hands are there that clasped in mine the warmer heart will not belie, while mirth and truth and friendship shine in smiling lip and earnest eye. The eyes that gathers round my heart may there be thawed, and sweetly then the joys of youth that now depart will come to cheer my soul again. Though far I roam, that thought shall be my hope, my comfort everywhere. While such a home remains to me, my heart shall never know despair. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Evening Solace. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. The human heart has hidden treasures, in secret kept, in silence sealed. The thoughts, the hopes, the dreams, the pleasures, whose charms were broken if revealed. And days may pass in gay confusion, and nights in rosy riot fly, while lost in fame's or wealth's illusion, the memory of the past may die. But there are hours of lonely musing, such as in evening silence come, when soft as birds their pinions closing, the heart's best feelings gather home, and in our souls there seems to languish a tender grief that is not woe, and thoughts that once wrung groans of anguish now cause but some mild tears to flow. And feelings, once as strong as passions, float softly back, a faded dream, our own sharp griefs and wild sensations, the tale of others' sufferings seem. Oh, when the heart is freshly bleeding, how longs it for that time to be, when through the mist of years receding, its woes but live in reverie. And it can dwell on moonlight glimmer, on evening shade and loneliness, and while the sky grows dim and dimmer, feel no untold and strange distress, only a deeper impulse given by lonely hour and darkened room, to solemn thoughts that soar to heaven, seeking a life and world to come. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Self-Interrogation. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. The evening passes fast away, 'tis almost time to rest. What thoughts has left the vanished day? What feelings in thy breast? The vanished day, it leaves a sense of labour hardly done, of little gained with vast expense, a sense of grief alone. Time stands before the door of death, upbraiding bitterly, and conscience, with exhaustless breath, pours black reproach on me. And though I've said that conscience lies, and time should fate condemn, still, sad repentance clouds my eyes, and makes them yield to them. Then art thou glad to seek repose? Art glad to leave the sea, and anchor all thy weary woes in calm eternity? Nothing regrets to see thee go, not one voice sobs farewell, and where thy heart has suffered so, canst thou desire to dwell? Alas, the countless links are strong that bind us to our clay. The loving spirit lingers long and would not pass away. And rest is sweet when laurelled fame will crown the soldier's crest. but a brave heart, with a tarnished name, would rather fight than rest. Well, thou hast fought for many a year, hast fought thy whole life through, hast humbled falsehood, trampled fear. What is there left to do? 'Tis true, this arm has hotly striven, has dared what few would dare. Much have I done and freely given, but little learned to bear. Look on the grave where thou must sleep, thy last and strongest foe. It is endurance not to weep, if that repose seem woe. The long war closing in defeat, defeat serenely borne, thy midnight rest may still be sweet, and break in glorious morn. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Lines composed in a wood on a windy day. Read for LibriVox.org by Christoff. My soul is awakened, my spirit is soaring, and carried aloft on the wings of the breeze, for above and around me the wild wind is roaring, arousing to rapture the earth and the seas. The long withered grass in the sunshine is glancing, the bare trees are tossing their branches on high, the dead leaves beneath them are merrily dancing, the white clouds are scudding across the blue sky. I wish I could see how the ocean is lashing the foam of its billows to whirlwinds of spray. I wish I could see how its proud waves are dashing, and hear the wild roar of their thunder today. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Stanzas. Read for LibriVox.org by Christoff. If thou be in a lonely place, if 1 hour's calm be thine, as evening bends her placid face o'er this sweet day's decline, if all the earth and all the heaven now look serene to thee, as o'er them shuts the summer even, one moment, think of me. Pause in the lane returning home, 'tis dusk, it will be still. Pause near the elm, a sacred gloom its breezeless boughs will fill. Look at that soft and golden light high in the unclouded sky, watch the last bird's belated flight as it flits silent by. Hark for a sound upon the wind, a step, a voice, a sigh. If all be still, then yield thy mind unchecked to memory. If thy love were like mine, how blessed that twilight hour would seem, when, back from the regretted past, returned our early dream. If thy love were like mine, how wild thy longings even to pain for sunset soft and moonlight mild, to bring that hour again. But oft, when in thine arms I lay, I've seen thy dark eyes shine, and deeply felt their changeful ray spoke other love than mine. My love is almost anguish now, it beats so strong and true. 'Twere rapture, could I deem that thou such anguish ever knew. I have been but thy transient flower, thou wert my God divine, till checked by death's congealing power, this heart must throb for thine. And well my dying hour were blessed, if life's expiring breath should pass, as thy lips gently pressed my forehead, cold in death. And sound my sleep would be, and sweet, beneath the churchyard tree, if sometimes in thy heart should beat one pulse, still true to me. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Death. Read for LibriVox.org by Christoff. Death, that struck when I was most confiding in my certain faith of joy to be, strike again, time's withered branch dividing from the fresh root of eternity. Leaves upon time's branch were growing brightly, full of sap and full of silver dew. Birds beneath its shelter gathered nightly, daily round its flowers the wild bees flew. Sorrow passed, and plucked the golden blossom, guilt stripped off the foliage in its pride, but within its parents' kindly bosom flowed forever life's restoring tide. Little mourned I for the parted gladness, for the vacant nest and silent song. Hope was there, and laughed me out of sadness, whispering, winter will not linger long. And behold, with tenfold increase blessing, spring adorned the beauty bird and spray. Wind and rain and fervent heat, caressing, lavished glory on that 2nd May. High it rose, no winged grief could sweep it. Sin was scared to distance with its shine. Love and its own life had power to keep it from all wrong, from every blight but thine. Cruel death! The young leaves droop and languish. Evening's gentle air may still restore. No, the morning sunshine mocks my anguish. Time, for me, must never blossom more. Strike it down, that other boughs may flourish, where that perished sapling used to be. Thus, at least, its mouldering corpse will nourish that from which it sprung, eternity. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Views of Life, read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. When sinks my heart in hopeless gloom, and life can show no joy for me, and I behold a yawning tomb, where bowers and palaces should be, in vain you talk of morbid dreams, in vain you gaily smiling say, that what to me so dreary seems, the healthy mind deems bright and gay. I too have smiled and thought like you, but madly smiled and falsely deemed. Truth led me to the present view. I am waking now, 'twas then I dreamed. I lately saw a sunset sky, and stood enraptured to behold its varied hues of glorious dye. First, fleecy clouds of shining gold, these blushing took a rosy hue, beneath them shone a flood of green, nor less divine the glorious blue that smiled above them and between. I cannot name each lovely shade, I cannot say how bright they shone, but one by one I saw them fade, and what remained when they were gone? Dull clouds remained, of sombre hue, and when their borrowed charm was o'er, the azure sky had faded too, that smiled so softly bright before. So, gilded by the glow of youth, our varied life looks fair and gay, and so remains the naked truth, when that false light is passed away. Why blame ye then my keener sight, that clearly sees a world of woes, through all the haze of golden light that flattering falsehood round it throws? When the young mother smiles above the first-born darling of her heart, her bosom glows with earnest love, while tears of silent transport start. Fond dreamer, little does she know the anxious toil, the suffering, the blasted hopes, the burning woe, the object of her joy will bring. Her blinded eyes behold not now what soon or late must be his doom, the anguish that will cloud his brow, the bed of death, the dreary tomb. As little know the youthful pair, in mutual love supremely blest, what weariness and cold despair ere long will seize the aching breast. And even should love and faith remain, the greatest blessings life can show, amid adversity and pain, to shine throughout with cheering glow. They do not see how cruel death comes on their loving hearts to part. One feels not now the gasping breath, the rending of the earth-bound heart. The soul's and body's agony, ere she may sink to her repose, the sad survivor cannot see the grave above his darling close. Nor how, despairing and alone, he then must wear his life away, and linger, feebly toiling on, and fainting, sink into decay. O youth may listen patiently, while sad experience tells her tale, but doubt sits smiling in his eye, for ardent hope will still prevail. He hears how feeble pleasure dies, by guilt destroyed, and pain and woe. He turns to hope, and she replies, "Believe it not, it is not so." "Oh, heed her not," experience says, for thus she whispered once to me. She told me, in my youthful days, how glorious manhood's prime would be, when in the time of early spring, too chill the winds that o'er me passed, she said, each coming day would bring a fairer heaven, a gentler blast. And when the sun too seldom beamed, the sky o'ercast too darkly frowned, the soaking rain too constant streamed, and mists too dreary gathered round, she told me, summer's glorious ray would chase those vapours all away, and scatter glories round. With sweetest music fill the trees, load with rich scent the gentle breeze, and strew with flowers the ground. But when, beneath that scorching ray, I languished, weary, through the day, while birds refused to sing, verdure decayed from field and tree, and panting nature mourned with me the freshness of the spring. "Wait but a little while," she said, "till summer's burning days are fled, and autumn shall restore, with golden riches of her own, and summer's glories mellowed down, the freshness you deplore." And long I waited, but in vain. That freshness never came again, though summer passed away, though autumn's mists hung cold and chill, and drooping nature languished still, and sank into decay. Till wintry blasts foreboding blew through leafless trees, and then I knew that hope was all a dream. But thus, fond youth, she cheated me, and she will prove as false to thee, though sweet her words may seem. Stern prophet, cease thy bodings dire, thou canst not quench the ardent fire that warms the breast of youth. Oh, let it cheer him while it may, and gently, gently die away, chilled by the damps of truth. Tell him that earth is not our rest, its joys are empty, frail at best, and point beyond the sky, but gleams of light may reach us here, and hope the roughest path can cheer. Then do not bid it fly. Though hope may promise joys that still unkindly time will ne'er fulfill, or if they come at all, we never find them unalloyed, hurtful perchance, or soon destroyed, they vanish or they pall. Yet hope itself a brightness throws o'er all our labours and our woes, while dark foreboding care a thousand ills will oft portend that Providence may ne'er intend the trembling heart to bear. Or if they come, it oft appears our woes are lighter than our fears, and far more bravely borne. Then let us not enchance our doom, but e'en in midnight's blackest gloom expect the rising morn. Because the road is rough and long, shall we despise the skylark's song that cheers the wanderer's way, or trample down with reckless feet the smiling flowerets bright and sweet, because they soon decay? Pass pleasant scenes unnoticed by, because the next is bleak and drear, or not enjoy a smiling sky because a tempest may be near? No, while we journey on our way, we'll smile on every lovely thing, and ever as they pass away, to memory and hope we'll cling. And though that awful river flows before us when the journey's past, perchance of all the pilgrim's woes, most dreadful, shrink not till the last. Though icy cold, and dark, and deep, beyond it smiles that blessed shore, where none shall suffer, none shall weep, and bliss shall reign for evermore. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Parting. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. There's no use in weeping, though we are condemned to part. There's such a thing as keeping a remembrance in one's heart. There's such a thing as dwelling on the thought ourselves have nursed, and with scorn and courage telling the world to do its worst. We'll not let its follies grieve us, we'll just take them as they come, and then every day will leave us a merry laugh for home. When we've left each friend and brother, when we are parted wide and far, we will think of one another as even better than we are. Every glorious sight above us, every pleasant sight beneath, will connect with those that love us, whom we truly love till death. In the evening, when we are sitting by the fire perchance alone, then shall heart with warm heart meeting give responsive tone for tone. We can burst the bonds which chain us, which cold human hands have wrought, and where none shall dare restrain us, we can meet again in thought. So there's no use in weeping. Bear a cheerful spirit still. Never doubt that faith is keeping future good for present ill. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. Stanzas 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Well, some may hate, and some may scorn, and some may quite forget thy name, but my sad heart must ever mourn thy ruined hopes, thy blighted fame. 'Twas thus I thought an hour ago, even weeping o'er that wretch's woe. One word turned back my gushing tears, and lit my altered eye with sneers. Then bless the friendly dust, I said, that hides thy unlamented head. Vain as thou wert, and weak as vain, the slave of falsehood, pride, and pain. My heart has naught akin to thine, thy soul is powerless over mine. But these were thoughts that vanished too, unwise, unholy, and untrue. Do I despise the timid deer because his limbs are fleet with fear? Or would I mock the wolf's death howl because his foam is gaunt and foul? Or hear with joy the leveret's cry because it cannot bravely die? No, then above his memory let pity's heart as tender be. Say, earth, lie lightly on that breast, and, kind heaven, grant that spirit rest. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Appeal. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Oh, I am very weary, though tears no longer flow. My eyes are tired of weeping, my heart is sick of woe. My life is very lonely, my days pass heavily, I'm weary of repining. Wilt thou not come to me? Oh, didst thou know my longings for thee from day to day, my hopes so often blighted, thou wouldst not thus delay. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Honour's Martyr. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. The moon is full this winter night, the stars are clear though few, and every window glistens bright with leaves of frozen dew. The sweet moon through your lattice gleams, and lights your room like day, and there you pass in happy dreams the peaceful hours away. While I, with effort hardly quelling the anguish in my breast, wander about the silent dwelling and cannot think of rest. The old clock in the gloomy hall ticks on from hour to hour, and every time its measured call seems lingering slow and slower. And oh, how slow that keen-eyed star has tracked the chilly grey! What, watching yet? How very far the morning lies away! Without your chamber door I stand. Love, are you slumbering still? My cold heart underneath my hand has almost ceased to thrill. Bleak, bleak the east wind sobs and sighs, and drowns the turret bell, whose sad note undistinguished dies, unheard, like my farewell. Tomorrow's scorn will blight my name, and hate will trample me, will load me with a coward's shame, a traitor's perjury. False friends will launch their coward sneers, true friends will wish me dead, and I shall cause the bitterest tears that you have ever shed. The dark deeds of my outlawed race will then like virtues shine, and men will pardon their disgrace beside the guilt of mine. For who forgives the accursed crime of dastard treachery? Rebellion, in its chosen time, may freedom's champion be. Revenge may stain a righteous sword, it may be just to slay, but traitor, traitor, from that word all true breasts shrink away. Oh, I would give my heart to death to keep my honour fair, yet I'll not give my inward faith, my honour's name to spare. Not even to keep your priceless love, dare I, beloved, deceive. This treason should the future prove, then, only then, believe. I know the path I ought to go, I follow fiercely, inquiring not what deeper woe stern duty stores for me. So foes pursue, and colder lies mistrust me every one. Let me be false in others' eyes, if faithful in my own. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Student's Serenade. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. I have slept upon my couch, but my spirit did not rest, for the labours of the day, yet my weary soul oppressed. And before my dreaming eyes still the learned volumes lay, and I could not close their leaves, and I could not turn away. But I oped my eyes at last, and I heard a muffled sound. 'Twas the night breeze come to say that the snow was on the ground. Then I knew that there was rest on the mountain's bosom free, so I left my fevered couch, and I flew to waken thee. I have flown to waken thee, for if thou wilt not arise, then my soul can drink no peace from these holy moonlight skies, and this waste of virgin snow to my sight will not be fair, unless thou wilt smiling come, love, to wander with me there. Then awake, Maria, wake! For if thou couldst only know how the quiet moonlight sleeps on this wilderness of snow, and the groves of ancient trees in their snowy garb arrayed, till they stretch into the gloom of the distant valley's shade, I know thou wouldst rejoice to inhale this bracing air. Thou wouldst break thy sweetest sleep to behold a scene so fair. O'er these wintry wilds, alone, thou wouldst joy to wander free, and it will not please thee less though that bliss be shared with me. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Stanzas. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. I'll not weep that thou art going to leave me, there's nothing lovely here, and doubly will the dark world grieve me, while thy heart suffers there. I'll not weep because the summer's glory must always end in gloom, and follow out the happier story, it closes with the tomb. And I am weary of the anguish increasing winters bear, weary to touch the spirit languish through years of dead despair. So if a tear, when thou art dying, should haply fall from me, it is but that my soul is sighing to go and rest with thee. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. The Captive Dove. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Poor restless dove, I pity thee, and when I hear thy plaintive moan, I mourn for thy captivity, and in thy woes forget mine own. To see thee stand prepared to fly, and flap those useless wings of thine, and gaze into the distant sky, would melt a harder heart than mine. In vain, thou canst not rise, thy prison roof confines thee there. Its slender wires delude thine eyes, and quench thy longings with despair. Oh, thou wert made to wander free, in sunny mead and shady grove, and far beyond the rolling sea, in distant climes, at will to rove. Yet, hadst thou but one gentle maid, thy little drooping heart to cheer, and share with thee thy captive state, thou couldst be happy even there. Yes, even there, if listening by one faithful dear companion stood, while gazing on her full black eye, thou mightst forget thy native wood. But thou, poor solitary dove, must make unheard thy joyless moan. The heart that nature formed to love must pine, neglected and alone. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. Winter Stores. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. We take from life one little share, and say that this shall be a space redeemed from toil and care, from tears and sadness free. And haply death unstrings his bow, and sorrow stands apart, and for a little while we know the sunshine of the heart. Existence seems a summer eve, warm, soft, and full of peace. Our free, unfettered feelings give the soul its full release. A moment, then it takes the power to call up thoughts that throw around that charmed and hallowed hour this life's divinest glow. But time, though viewlessly it flies, and slowly will not stay, alike through clear and clouded skies it cleaves its silent way. Alike the bitter cup of grief, alike the draught of bliss, its progress leaves but moment brief, for baffled lips to kiss. The sparkling draught is dried away, the hour of rest is gone, and urgent voices round us say, Ho, lingerer, hasten on. And has the soul then only gained, from this brief time of ease, a moment's rest when overstrained one hurried glimpse of peace? No, while the sun shone kindly o'er us, and flowers bloomed round our feet, while many a bud of joy before us unclosed its petals sweet, an unseen work within was plying, like honey-seeking bee, from flower to flower, unwearied, flying, laboured one faculty, thoughtful for winter's future sorrow, its gloom and scarcity, prescient today, of want tomorrow, toiled quiet memory. 'Tis she that from each transient pleasure extracts a lasting good. 'Tis she that finds in summer treasure to serve for winter's food. And when youth's summer day is vanished, and age brings winter's stress, her stores with hoarded sweets replenished, life's evening hours will bless. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. My Comforter. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Well hast thou spoken, and yet not taught a feeling strange or new. Thou hast but roused a latent thought, a cloud-closed beam of sunshine brought to gleam in open view. Deep down, concealed within my soul, that light lies hid from men, yet glows unquenched, though shadows roll, its gentle ray cannot control about the sullen den. Was I not vexed, in these gloomy ways, to walk alone so long? Around me, wretches uttering praise, or howling o'er their hopeless days, and each with frenzy's tongue. A brotherhood of misery, their smiles as sad as sighs, whose madness daily maddened me, distorting into agony the bliss before my eyes. So stood I, in heaven's glorious sun, and in the glare of hell. My spirit drank a mingled tone of seraph's song and demon's moan. What my soul bore, my soul alone within itself may tell. Like a soft air above a sea, tossed by the tempest's stir, a thaw wind melting quietly the snowdrift on some wintry lea. No, what sweet thing resembles thee, my thoughtful comforter? And yet a little longer speak, calm this resentful mood, and while the savage heart grows meek, for other token do not seek, but let the tear upon my cheek evince my gratitude. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Self-Congratulation. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Ellen, you were thoughtless once of beauty or of grace, simple and homely in attire, careless of form and face. Then whence this change, and wherefore now so often smooth your hair, and wherefore deck your youthful form with such unwearied care? Tell us, and cease to tire our ears with that familiar strain. Why will you play those simple tunes so often o'er again? Indeed, dear friends, I can but say that childhood's thoughts are gone. Each year its own new feelings brings, and years move swiftly on. And for these little simple airs I love to play them o'er, so much, I dare not promise now, to play them nevermore. I answered, and it was enough. They turned them to depart. They could not read my secret thoughts, nor see my throbbing heart. I've noticed many a youthful form, upon whose changeful face the inmost workings of the soul the gazer well might trace. The speaking eye, the changing lip, the ready blushing cheek, the smiling or beclouded brow, their different feelings speak. But thank God, you might gaze on mine for hours, and never know the secret changes of my soul from joy to keenest woe. Last night, as we sat round the fire, conversing merrily, we heard without approaching steps of one well known to me. There was no trembling in my voice, no blush upon my cheek, no lustrous sparkle in my eyes of hope or joy to speak. But oh, my spirit burned within, my heart beat full and fast. He came not nigh, he went away, and then my joy was past. And yet my comrades marked it not, my voice was still the same. They saw me smile, and o'er my face no signs of sadness came. They little knew my hidden thoughts, and they will never know the aching anguish of my heart, the bitter burning woe. Acton. This recording is in the public domain. The Missionary. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Plough, vessel, plough the British main, seek the free ocean's wider plain, leave English scenes and English skies, unbind, dissever English ties. Bear me to climes remote and strange, where altered life, fast following change, hot action, never ceasing toil, shall stir, turn, dig the spirit's soil. Fresh roots shall plant, fresh seed shall sow, till a new garden there shall grow, cleared of the weeds that fill it now. Mere human love, mere selfish yearning, which cherished would arrest me yet. I grasp the plough, there's no returning, let me then struggle to forget. But England's shores are yet in view, and England's skies of tender blue are arched above her guardian sea. I cannot yet remembrance flee, I must again then firmly face that task of anguish to retrace. Wedded to home, I home forsake, fearful of change, I changes make. Too fond of ease, I plunge in toil, lover of calm, I seek turmoil. Nature and hostile destiny stir in my heart a conflict wild, and long and fierce the war will be ere duty both has reconciled. What other tie yet holds me fast to the divorced, abandoned past? Smouldering on my heart's altar lies the fire of some great sacrifice not yet half quenched, the sacred steel, but lately struck my carnal will, my lifelong hope, first joy and last, what I loved well and clung to fast, what I wished wildly to retain, what I renounced with soul-felt pain, what, when I saw it, axe-struck, perish, left me no joy on earth to cherish. A man bereft, yet sternly now I do confirm that Jephthah vow. Shall I retract, or fear, or flee? Did Christ, when rose that fatal tree before him on Mount Calvary? 'Twas a long fight, hard fought, but won, and what I did was justly done. Yet, Helen, from thy love I turned, when my heart most for thy heart burned. I dared thy tears, I dared thy scorn, easier the death pang had been borne. Helen, thou mightst not go with me, I could not, dared not stay for thee. I heard afar in bonds complain the savage from beyond the main, and that wild sound rose o'er the cry rung out by passion's agony. And even when, with the bitterest tear I ever shed, mine eyes were dim, still with the spirit's vision clear, I saw hell's empire, vast and grim, spread on each Indian river's shore, each realm of Asia covering o'er. There, the weak, trampled by the strong, live but to suffer, hopeless die. There pagan priests, whose creed is wrong, extortion, lust, and cruelty, crush our lost race, and brimming fill the bitter cup of human ill. And I, who have the healing creed, the faith benign of Mary's Son, shall I behold my brother's need, and selfishly to aid him shun? I, who upon my mother's knees in childhood read Christ's written word, received his legacy of peace, his holy rule of action heard, I, in whose heart the sacred sense of Jesus' love was early felt, of his pure full benevolence, his pitying tenderness for guilt, his shepherd care for wandering sheep, for all weak, sorrowing, trembling things, his mercy vast, his passion deep, of anguish for man's sufferings. I, schooled from childhood in such lore, dared I draw back or hesitate, when called to heal the sickness sore of those far off and desolate? Dark, in the realm and shades of death, nations and tribes and empires lie, but even to them the light of faith is breaking on their sombre sky. And be it mine to bid them raise their drooped heads to the kindling scene, and know and hail the sunrise blaze, which heralds Christ the Nazarene. I know how hell the veil will spread over their brows and filmy eyes, and earthward crush the lifted head that would look up and seek the skies. I know what war the fiend will wage against that soldier of the cross, who comes to dare his demon rage and work his kingdom's shame and loss. Yes, hard and terrible the toil of him who steps on foreign soil, resolved to plant the gospel vine, where tyrants rule and slaves repine, eager to lift religion's light, where thickest shades of mental night screen the false god and fiendish rite, reckless that missionary blood, shed in wild wilderness and wood, has left, upon the unblessed air, the man's deep moan, the martyr's prayer. I know my lot, I only ask power to fulfill the glorious task. Willing the spirit, may the flesh strength for the day receive afresh. May burning sun or deadly wind prevail not o'er an earnest mind. May torment strange or direst death nor trample truth, nor baffle faith. Though such blood drops should fall from me, as fell in old Gethsemane, welcome the anguish, so it gave more strength to work, more skill to save. And oh, if brief must be my time, if hostile hand or fatal clime cut short my course, still o'er my grave, Lord, may thy harvest whitening wave. So I the culture may begin, let others thrust the sickle in, if but the seed will faster grow, may my blood water what I sow. What? Have I ever trembling stood, and feared to give to God that blood? What? Has the coward love of life made me to shrink from the righteous strife? Have human passions, human fears, severed me from those pioneers, whose task is to march first and trace paths for the progress of our race? It has been so. But grant me, Lord, now to stand steadfast by thy word, protected by salvation's helm, shielded by faith, with truth begirt, to smile when trials seek to whelm, and stand mid testing fires and hurt, hurling hell's strongest bulwarks down, even when the last pang thrills my breast, when death bestows the martyr's crown, and calls me into Jesus' rest. Then for my ultimate reward, then for the world rejoicing word, the voice from Father, Spirit, Son. Servant of God, well hast thou done. Currer. This recording is in the public domain. The Old Stoic. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. Riches I hold in light esteem, and love I laugh to scorn, and lust of fame was but a dream that vanished with the morn. And if I pray, the only prayer that moves my lips for me is, leave the heart that now I bear, and give me liberty. Yes, as my swift days near their goal, 'tis all that I implore, in life and death, a chainless soul, with courage to endure. Ellis. This recording is in the public domain. Fluctuations. Read for LibriVox.org by Ellis Christoff. What though the sun had left my sky to save me from despair? The blessed moon arose on high and shone serenely there. I watched her with a tearful gaze rise slowly o'er the hill, while through the dim horizon's haze her light gleamed faint and chill. I thought such wan and lifeless beams could ne'er my heart repay, for the bright sun's most transient gleams that cheered me through the day. But as above that mist's control she rose and brighter shone, I felt her light upon my soul, but now that light is gone. Thick vapours snatched her from my sight, and I was darkling left, all in the cold and gloomy night, of light and hope bereft, until methought a little star shone forth with trembling ray, to cheer me with its light afar, but that too passed away. Anon an earthly meteor blazed the gloomy darkness through. I smiled, yet trembled while I gazed, but that soon vanished too. And darker, drearier fell the night upon my spirit then. But what is that faint struggling light? Is it the moon again? Kind Heaven, increase that silvery gleam, and bid these clouds depart, and let her soft celestial beam restore my fainting heart. Acton. This concludes the reading of poems by Currer, Ellis and Acton Bell. This recording is in the public domain.